In a world where we act like we have endless time, there is one truth most people quietly ignore. Life can end at any moment, without warning, without preparation, without giving you a second chance to fix what you wasted. The conversations you overthink, the people you chase, the problems you carry in your mind every single day. One day, none of it will matter, and yet you are giving it your entire life right now. Have you ever noticed how much of your time is spent inside your own head, replaying things that already happened, worrying about things that may never happen, and holding on to people who have already shown you they don't value you? Buddhism teaches that suffering is not caused by life itself, but by attachment, by clinging, by refusing to let go of what is already gone or what was never meant to stay. What if the real problem is not your life, but the way your mind refuses to release what is hurting you? What if freedom begins the moment you finally understand that life is too short to be spent on things that drain your peace? Before it's too late, you must learn to let go. 2. Let go of people who drain your energy. Not everyone in your life is meant to stay forever, and one of the hardest things to accept is that some people are only part of your journey, not your final destination. They come into your life to teach you something, to shape you, or to show you what you truly need, but that does not mean they are meant to grow with you. Still, many people hold on, trying to fix what is already broken, explaining themselves again and again, and chasing relationships that only bring stress, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Instead of feeling supported, you feel drained, like you are constantly giving but rarely receiving peace in return. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, not because relationships are unimportant, but because holding on to the wrong people creates deep suffering. When your happiness depends on how someone treats you, responds to you, or values you, you slowly lose control over your own mind. Their actions begin to control your mood, your thoughts, and your sense of self-worth. And without realizing it, you give them power over your inner peace. Letting go does not mean you hate them or erase the memories you shared. It simply means you choose yourself. You choose to protect your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being. Because the truth is, life is too short to spend it trying to be understood by people who are never willing to understand you in the first place. 3. Stop carrying problems that don't belong to you. Many people walk through life carrying invisible weight in their mind, thinking about problems that are not theirs to solve. You worry about what others think of you. You stress about situations you cannot control, and you take responsibility for outcomes that were never in your hands. Slowly, your mind becomes crowded, not because life is too heavy, but because you are holding things that were never meant for you. Buddhism teaches acceptance, the understanding that not everything needs to be controlled or fixed. When you try to control everything, you create pressure inside yourself, and that pressure turns into stress, anxiety, and mental exhaustion. But when you learn to accept what you cannot change, something powerful happens. You stop fighting reality, and your mind begins to feel lighter and calmer. Not every problem deserves your attention. Some things will resolve on their own, some things were never your responsibility, and some things are simply out of your control. The moment you stop carrying what is not yours, you create space for peace, clarity, and a much simpler life. 4. Overthinking is stealing your life. Overthinking feels like you are trying to solve your life, but in reality, it is slowly taking your life away from you. It gives you the illusion that if you just think a little more, analyze a little deeper, or replay the situation one more time, you will finally find peace or control. But what actually happens is the opposite. Your mind becomes more crowded, your emotions become heavier, and simple moments that should feel calm and easy start to feel complicated and stressful. Have you ever noticed how one small thing can take over your entire day? One message that wasn't replied to, one conversation that felt off, one mistake you made, and suddenly your mind begins to build stories around it. You start asking questions that have no clear answers, creating scenarios that may never happen, and trying to understand things that don't even need to be understood. What started as a small thought slowly turns into stress, and that stress begins to control your mood, your focus, and your peace. Buddhism describes this as the restless mind, often called the monkey mind, a mind that jumps from one thought to another without ever staying still. The more you follow it, the more it pulls you away from the present moment. Instead of living your life, you are stuck inside your head, watching life pass by while you are busy thinking about it. And the truth is, most of what you are thinking about will never matter in the long run. Most fears don't come true, most worries fade away, and most situations resolve themselves without all the mental noise you create. Overthinking also keeps you stuck in the past and afraid of the future at the same time. You replay things you cannot change, wishing you said something different or acted differently, and at the same time, you imagine future problems that may never even happen. This creates a constant tension inside you, where your mind is never at rest, and your peace always feels out of reach. The real cost of overthinking is not just stress. It is the life you are missing while you are lost in your thoughts. Moments that could have been peaceful become heavy. Opportunities that require action are delayed. Relationships that could be enjoyed become complicated. You are physically present, but mentally somewhere else, trapped in a loop that never truly gives you answers. Buddhism teaches that peace is found in awareness, not in endless thinking. The more you observe your thoughts without getting attached to them, the less power they have over you. You begin to realize that not every thought is important, not every feeling needs to be followed, and not every situation needs to be analyzed. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stop feeding your thoughts and simply return to the present moment. You don't need to solve everything in your mind to live a peaceful life. You don't need to understand every detail to move forward. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to control it with your thoughts and start experiencing it as it is. Because the truth is simple, the more you overthink, the less you actually live. And the moment you learn to quiet your mind, you finally begin to feel what it means to be free. 5. The second arrow, why you suffer more than necessary. In Buddhism, there is a powerful teaching known as the second arrow, and once you truly understand it, you begin to see your suffering in a completely different way. The first arrow is the pain that life gives you, the things you cannot always avoid. It could be rejection, loss, disappointment, failure, or someone treating you unfairly. This pain is real, and it is part of being human. No one can go through life without feeling it at some point. But then comes the second arrow, and this is where most people lose themselves. The second arrow is not shot by life, it is shot by your own mind. It is the overthinking that follows the pain, the endless replaying of what happened, the questions that have no answers, the self-blame, the anger, and the stories you keep telling yourself again and again. One moment of pain turns into days, weeks, or even years of mental suffering, not because the event continues, but because your mind refuses to let it go. Think about how often this happens in your life. Something small goes wrong. Maybe someone says something that hurts you, or a situation doesn't go the way you expected. The moment itself passes quickly, but your mind doesn't let it end there. You start thinking about why it happened, what you could have done differently, what they meant by it, and what might happen next. You create meanings, assumptions, and fears, and suddenly the pain becomes much bigger than the original event. This is how the second arrow works. It multiplies your suffering. It takes something that could have been temporary and turns it into something that feels permanent. And the most difficult part is that many people don't even realize they are doing this to themselves. They believe their suffering is coming from the situation, when in reality it is coming from the way they keep holding on to it in their mind. Buddhism teaches that while you cannot always avoid the first arrow, you can choose not to shoot the second. And this choice changes everything. It means allowing yourself to feel the pain without turning it into a long story. It means experiencing the moment without building a chain of thoughts around it. It means understanding that not everything needs to be analyzed, explained, or held onto. Letting go of the second arrow does not mean you become emotionless or ignore your feelings. It means you stop adding extra weight to them. You stop turning one moment into a lifetime of suffering. You allow things to pass as they are meant to pass, without trapping them inside your mind. When you practice this, you begin to notice a shift. Situations that once stayed in your mind for days start to fade much faster. You become less reactive, less overwhelmed, and more present. You realize that peace is not about avoiding pain, it is about not adding unnecessary suffering to it. Life will always have challenges, and pain will always be part of the journey. But the way you respond to that pain is what defines your experience. You can either let one moment pass naturally, or you can hold on to it and let it control you. And that is the real lesson of the second arrow. You are not responsible for every pain that comes into your life, but you are responsible for how long you choose to carry it. 6. Detach and return to yourself. There comes a quiet moment in life when you begin to feel tired, not physically, but mentally and emotionally tired. And it is not because life is too hard, but because you have been holding on to too much for too long. You have been holding on to people who no longer bring peace into your life, holding on to expectations that keep disappointing you, holding on to thoughts that never stop running, and holding on to versions of yourself that no longer exist. And without realizing it, you slowly drift away from the most important connection you have, the connection with yourself. Detachment is often misunderstood. Many people think it means becoming cold, distant, or emotionless, but that is not what Buddhism teaches. Detachment is not about pushing life away. It is about releasing your unhealthy attachment to it. It is about learning to experience life without letting it control your inner state. It is about being present, involved, and aware, but not dependent. Because the truth is, the more attached you are to outcomes, people, and expectations, the more power you give them over your peace. Think about how much of your emotional state is controlled by things outside of you. When someone responds to you in a certain way, your mood changes. When things don't go according to your plan, your mind becomes restless. When people leave, ignore you, or misunderstand you, it feels like a part of you is shaken. This happens because you have attached your sense of stability to things that are constantly changing. You expect consistency from people who are uncertain, control from situations that are unpredictable, and permanence from a life that is temporary. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent. People change, situations change, emotions change, and even you are constantly changing. When you try to hold on to something that is naturally meant to change, you create resistance, and that resistance becomes suffering. But when you accept that change is part of life, you begin to loosen your grip. You stop trying to control everything, and instead, you learn to flow with life. Detachment is the moment you stop chasing and start observing. It is when you stop forcing things to work and allow them to reveal their true nature. You begin to see people for who they really are, not for who you want them to be. You stop expecting others to complete you, validate you, or constantly understand you. And as you release these expectations, something inside you becomes lighter. Returning to yourself means reconnecting with your own inner stability. It means finding a sense of calm that does not depend on anyone's presence or behavior. It means realizing that your peace is not something others give you, it is something you protect within yourself. When you stop giving away your energy to everything around you, you begin to feel whole again. There is a powerful freedom in no longer needing constant reassurance, attention, or approval. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to people who don't understand you. You no longer feel the need to chase closure from those who have already moved on. You no longer feel controlled by every small change in your environment. Instead, you become grounded, stable, and deeply connected to yourself. Detachment also allows you to see life more clearly. When you are emotionally attached to everything, your judgment becomes clouded. You hold on to situations longer than you should. You ignore signs that are clearly in front of you. And you stay in places that drain you because you are afraid to let go. But when you detach, you begin to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And this clarity helps you make better decisions, protect your energy, and move forward without unnecessary suffering. Another important part of detachment is learning to be comfortable with being alone. Many people fear detachment because they associate it with loneliness, but in reality, it leads to a deeper connection with yourself. When you are not constantly distracted by others, you begin to understand your own thoughts, your own emotions, and your own needs. You begin to build a relationship with yourself that is not based on external validation. This does not mean you stop loving people or caring about relationships. It simply means you love without losing yourself. You care without becoming dependent. You give without expecting something in return. And most importantly, you stay connected to yourself no matter what changes around you. When you practice detachment, you also become more resilient. Life will still bring challenges, people will still come and go, and situations will still change, but your inner state remains steady. You no longer react to everything, you respond with awareness. You no longer feel broken by every loss. You understand that loss is part of life. You no longer feel controlled by circumstances, you feel in control of yourself. Returning to yourself is not something that happens overnight. It is a process of slowly letting go of everything that is not truly yours. It is about releasing the need to control, the need to hold on, and the need to depend on things outside of you for your happiness. And as you let go, you begin to discover something powerful, a version of yourself that is calm, grounded, and free. You realize that peace was never something you had to chase. It was always within you, waiting for you to stop giving it away. And the moment you truly understand this, your life begins to change in a quiet but powerful way. You stop running after things that drain you. You stop holding on to people who don't value you. You stop overthinking situations that don't deserve your energy. And instead, you come back to yourself. Because at the end of everything, when all the noise fades, when all the distractions disappear, and when life strips away everything unnecessary, the only place you will always return to is yourself. 7. Live now before it's too late. There is a quiet truth about life that most people avoid thinking about, not because it is complicated, but because it is uncomfortable to face, and that truth is this: your time is limited, and it is passing whether you notice it or not. Every day feels normal while you are living it. Every moment feels like just another moment, and because of that, you assume there will always be more. More time to fix things, more time to say what you need to say, more time to become the person you keep telling yourself you will become one day. But life does not move according to your assumptions, and one day, without warning, everything you thought you had time for becomes something you wish you had done. Most people do not realize the value of their life while they are living it. They realize it later, when time has already passed, when opportunities are gone, when people are no longer there, and when moments that once felt ordinary become memories they wish they could return to. You rush through your days, distracted by thoughts, consumed by worries, and focused on things that, in the bigger picture, do not truly matter. You spend hours thinking about people who are not thinking about you, replaying conversations that are already over, and carrying stress about things that may never even happen. And while you are doing all of this, life is quietly moving forward without waiting for you to catch up. Buddhism teaches awareness, the ability to fully experience the present moment without being lost in the past or distracted by the future. But the reality is, most people live in neither the past nor the present. They live inside their thoughts. Their body is here, but their mind is somewhere else, thinking about what went wrong yesterday or worrying about what might go wrong tomorrow. And because of that, they miss the only place where life actually exists, which is right now. Living in the present moment does not mean ignoring your responsibilities or pretending nothing matters. It means understanding what truly matters and giving your attention to it fully. It means when you are with someone, you are actually with them, not lost in your phone or your thoughts. It means when you are experiencing something, you allow yourself to feel it instead of analyzing it. It means when you wake up in the morning, you don't immediately enter a state of stress, but you take a moment to recognize that you have been given another day that many people did not get. One of the biggest reasons people fail to live in the present is because they are waiting for the perfect moment. They tell themselves they will start living once they achieve something, once they fix everything, once they feel ready. But the truth is, that perfect moment never comes. Life is not something that begins when everything is in place. Life is happening right now, in the middle of your imperfections, your uncertainties, and your unfinished plans. You don't need everything to be perfect to start living fully. You don't need to solve every problem before you allow yourself to feel peace. You don't need approval from others to begin choosing yourself. The longer you wait, the more time you lose, and time is the one thing you will never be able to get back. Another reason people don't live fully is because they are attached to things that are already gone. They hold on to past versions of their life, past relationships, past mistakes, and past regrets. They replay moments in their mind, wishing they could change them, wishing they could go back and do things differently. But no matter how much you think about the past, it will not change. All it does is take your attention away from the present, the only place where change is actually possible. Buddhism teaches that attachment to the past is one of the main causes of suffering. When you refuse to let go, you carry the past into your present, and it begins to shape your future. But when you learn to accept what has already happened and release your grip on it, you free yourself to experience life as it is now, not as it was before. The same is true for the future. Many people live in constant anxiety because they are trying to control what has not happened yet. They imagine worst-case scenarios, they create fear around uncertainty, and they spend their time preparing for problems that may never even exist. But the future is not something you can fully control, and the more you try to control it, the more anxious you become. Living now means trusting that you will handle whatever comes when it comes, instead of suffering about it before it even happens. It means focusing on what you can do today, instead of being overwhelmed by what might happen tomorrow. It means building your life step by step, moment by moment, without rushing ahead in your mind. When you truly begin to live in the present, something powerful changes inside you. You become more aware of the small things, the simple moments that you used to ignore. A quiet morning, a deep breath, a conversation, a moment of stillness. All of these things begin to feel meaningful. You realize that life is not just about big achievements or major events. It is about the accumulation of small moments that you are fully present for. You also become more intentional with your time. You stop wasting it on things that drain you, like unnecessary arguments, toxic people, and endless overthinking. You start protecting your energy because you understand that your time and attention are limited resources. You begin to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and presence over distraction. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes with living now. You are no longer trapped by what has already happened, and you are no longer controlled by what might happen. You are here, fully aware, fully alive, and fully engaged with your life. And in that state, you realize that peace is not something you find in the future, it is something you create in the present. But perhaps the most important realization is this: one day, everything you are experiencing right now will become a memory. The people around you, the place you are in, the life you are living, all of it will eventually change. And when that day comes, you will not wish you had thought more, worried more, or held on to things longer. You will wish you had lived more, appreciated more, and been more present in the moments that mattered. Life ends at any moment, not as a way to create fear, but as a reminder to create awareness. It is a reminder that your time is valuable, that your energy matters, and that your life should not be spent on things that take away your peace. So stop waiting for the perfect time to start living. Stop wasting your energy on people who drain you. Stop carrying problems that are not yours to solve. Stop overthinking moments that are meant to be lived. And most importantly, stop delaying your life. Because before you realize it, time will move forward, and the moments you have today will become the memories you cannot return to. And when that happens, the only question that will matter is not how much you had or how much you achieved, but how deeply you lived the life you were given. So live now while you still can. 8. Let go or be dragged, the cost of holding on too long. There is a silent cost to holding on, and most people don't realize how much it is taking from them until they feel completely drained, confused, and disconnected from themselves. Holding on feels safe in the beginning. It feels like control. It feels like loyalty. You tell yourself you are being strong by not giving up, by not walking away, by not letting go. But what if what you call strength is actually fear? Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of accepting that something is no longer meant for you. Many people stay in situations long after they have stopped feeling at peace. They stay connected to people who constantly disturb their mind. They stay attached to problems that have no clear solution. They stay inside thoughts that never lead anywhere, and slowly, without realizing it, they begin to lose themselves. Not all at once, but little by little. A piece of their peace disappears, a piece of their clarity fades, and a piece of their energy is taken every single day. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, not because life is meant to be empty, but because clinging to what is not meant to stay creates pain. The more tightly you hold on to something that is already slipping away, the more it hurts you. It is like trying to hold water in your hand. By squeezing it tighter, the harder you try to keep it, the faster it escapes. And in that process, you exhaust yourself. Think about how often you have tried to hold on to something that was already changing. A relationship that no longer feels the same, a situation that keeps repeating the same pain, a version of your life that no longer exists. You feel it deep inside that something is off, but instead of accepting it, you try to fix it, control it, or delay the inevitable. You tell yourself that if you just try a little harder, things will go back to how they were. But life does not move backwards, and the more you resist change, the more you suffer. Holding on also creates a false sense of identity. You begin to define yourself by the things you are attached to. Your worth becomes connected to how others treat you. Your happiness becomes dependent on how situations unfold. Your sense of stability becomes tied to things that are constantly shifting. And when those things change or disappear, you feel lost, not because you have lost something external, but because you have forgotten who you are without it. Letting go, on the other hand, is often seen as weakness, but in reality, it is one of the strongest decisions you can make. It takes courage to accept that something is no longer right for you. It takes awareness to recognize when something is draining your energy. And it takes strength to walk away from what feels familiar but no longer serves your peace. Letting go does not mean you erase the past or pretend nothing mattered. It means you accept what was without trying to force it to continue. It means you honor the experience, learn from it, and then release it so you can move forward. Because the truth is, you cannot create space for something better if you are still holding on to what is already gone. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to let go is because they are attached to the idea of what something could have been. They are not holding on to reality, they are holding on to potential. They remember the good moments, the promises, the possibilities, and they convince themselves that things will eventually become what they once hoped for. But living in potential keeps you stuck. It keeps you waiting, hoping, and investing your energy into something that may never become real. Buddhism teaches you to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And when you truly see reality without illusion, it becomes easier to let go, because you are no longer attached to a version of something that does not exist. You are responding to what is actually in front of you. Another hidden cost of holding on is the energy it consumes. Every thought you give to something that is no longer serving you is energy taken away from your growth. Every moment you spend trying to fix something that cannot be fixed is a moment you are not investing in yourself. And over time, this creates a life where you feel stuck, not because you lack opportunities, but because your energy is tied up in things that are not moving forward. Letting go frees that energy. It allows you to redirect your focus toward your own life, your own goals, and your own peace. It creates space for clarity, for new experiences, and for a deeper connection with yourself. And most importantly, it allows you to move forward instead of staying stuck in the same cycle. There is also a deep sense of relief that comes with letting go. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, even painful. You may feel uncertain, like you have lost something important. But over time, you begin to notice a shift. Your mind becomes quieter. Your emotions become more stable. You no longer feel constantly pulled in different directions. And in that space, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time: peace. Letting go also teaches you an important lesson about life, that not everything is meant to stay, and that is okay. Some people are meant to teach you something and then leave. Some situations are meant to shape you and then change. Some chapters of your life are meant to end so that new ones can begin. When you accept this, you stop fearing change and you start understanding it. You begin to trust that letting go is not the end, but the beginning of something new. You begin to see that every time you release something that is not aligned with you, you create space for something that is. And even if you don't immediately know what that is, you trust that life is moving you in the direction you need to go. But perhaps the most powerful part of letting go is the return to yourself. When you are no longer holding on to everything around you, you begin to reconnect with who you are. You remember what you value, what brings you peace, and what truly matters to you. You stop looking outside for validation and start building a sense of stability within yourself. You realize that your peace is not something you find in people, situations, or outcomes. It is something you protect by choosing what you allow into your life and what you release. And once you understand this, your decisions begin to change. You become more selective with your energy, more aware of your boundaries, and more committed to your own well-being. Holding on may feel comfortable, but it comes at a cost. It costs you your peace, your energy, your clarity, and your growth. Letting go may feel difficult at first, but it gives you something far more valuable: freedom. Freedom from constant overthinking, freedom from emotional exhaustion, freedom from being controlled by things outside of you. And in that freedom, you finally begin to live a life that is truly yours. So ask yourself honestly, are you holding on to something that is holding you back? Are you staying in a place that no longer brings you peace? Are you carrying something that is draining your energy every single day? If the answer is yes, then the lesson is simple, but not easy. Let go or be dragged, because life will continue to move forward with or without your permission. And the longer you hold on to what is not meant for you, the more it will pull you away from the life you are meant to live. But the moment you decide to release it, everything begins to change. Not all at once, but enough for you to feel it, enough for you to breathe again, enough for you to finally move forward. And that is where your real life begins. 9. Choose peace over everything, the life most people realize too late. There comes a moment in life, sometimes quietly and sometimes through pain, when you begin to see everything differently. It is not because the world has changed, but because your awareness has deepened. You start to notice how much of your life has been spent chasing things that never truly gave you peace. You notice how many of your decisions were based on fear, on attachment, on the need to be accepted, understood, or validated by others. And slowly, a realization begins to grow inside you, a realization that most people only come to understand when it is already too late, and that is this: nothing is more valuable than your peace. Most people think peace is something they will find later in life. They believe it will come when they achieve enough, when they fix all their problems, when they finally reach a certain level of success, or when everything around them becomes stable. But the truth is, peace is not something that waits for perfect conditions. Peace is something you choose, again and again, in the middle of imperfect situations, difficult people, and uncertain moments. The reason so many people struggle to find peace is because they are constantly choosing everything else over it. They choose arguments over silence, they choose proving themselves over protecting their energy, they choose holding on over letting go, and they choose overthinking over simply being present. And with each of these choices, they slowly move further away from the calm, grounded life they truly want. Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from controlling the outside world. It comes from understanding and mastering your inner world. The more you depend on external things to feel okay, the more unstable your peace becomes. If your mood depends on how others treat you, you will always feel uncertain. If your happiness depends on outcomes, you will always feel anxious. If your sense of worth depends on validation, you will always feel incomplete. Choosing peace means breaking this pattern. It means deciding that your inner state is more important than external noise. It means you no longer allow every situation, every person, and every thought to control how you feel. And this decision, although simple in words, requires deep awareness and consistent practice. One of the first steps in choosing peace is learning to walk away from what disturbs it. This does not always mean physically leaving. Sometimes it means emotionally detaching. It means not reacting to every comment, not engaging in every argument, and not trying to fix every misunderstanding. You begin to understand that not everything deserves your attention, and not everything needs your response. Think about how much energy you have wasted in the past trying to explain yourself to people who were never willing to understand you. How many times have you tried to prove your worth to someone who had already decided how they see you? How many times have you stayed in situations that drained you simply because you were afraid of letting go? All of this takes away from your peace, and yet many people continue this pattern without questioning it. Choosing peace means you stop participating in your own exhaustion. You stop chasing clarity from people who bring confusion. You stop holding on to connections that constantly disturb your mind. And most importantly, you stop expecting others to give you what you must create within yourself. Another important part of choosing peace is learning to accept what you cannot control. Life will not always go according to your plans. People will act in ways you don't expect. Situations will change without your permission. And if you constantly resist these realities, you will create endless frustration within yourself. But when you learn to accept what is, instead of fighting it, you begin to feel a sense of calm, even in difficult moments. Acceptance does not mean you agree with everything or that you become passive. It means you stop wasting energy on what you cannot change and start focusing on what you can. It means you shift your attention from trying to control everything outside to strengthening everything inside. Overthinking is another major obstacle to peace. The more you think, the more problems you create. You take simple situations and turn them into complex mental puzzles. You imagine outcomes that may never happen. You analyze conversations that are already over. And through all of this, you lose the ability to experience life as it is. Choosing peace means learning to observe your thoughts without getting lost in them. It means understanding that not every thought is true, not every fear is real, and not every feeling needs to be followed. When you create distance between yourself and your thoughts, they begin to lose their power over you. There is also a deep level of strength required to choose peace in a world that constantly pulls you in different directions. People may misunderstand your silence. They may interpret your boundaries as distance. They may expect you to react the way you used to, but growth often looks like change, and change often makes others uncomfortable. When you begin to protect your peace, you may lose certain people, certain habits, and certain ways of living. But what you gain is far more valuable. You gain clarity, stability, and a sense of control over your own life. You gain the ability to move through situations without losing yourself. And most importantly, you gain a deeper connection with who you truly are. Buddhism reminds us that life is temporary, and because it is temporary, it should not be wasted on unnecessary suffering. One day, all the things you are worrying about right now will not matter. The arguments, the misunderstandings, the small frustrations, all of it will fade. But the time you spent worrying, stressing, and overthinking, that time will never come back. This is why choosing peace is so important. It is not just about feeling calm in the moment. It is about how you are using your life. Every moment you spend in unnecessary stress is a moment you could have spent living, appreciating, and growing. And once that moment passes, it is gone forever. Choosing peace also changes the way you experience relationships. You no longer approach them from a place of need or dependency. You no longer expect others to complete you or constantly validate you. Instead, you connect with people from a place of wholeness. You give without losing yourself, and you receive without becoming attached. This creates healthier, more balanced relationships where your happiness is not dependent on another person's behavior. And if a relationship no longer aligns with your peace, you have the strength to step back without feeling like you are losing yourself. There is also a quiet confidence that comes with choosing peace. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself to everyone. You no longer feel disturbed by every opinion or judgment. You become grounded in who you are, and that stability reflects in the way you move, speak, and respond to life. You begin to understand that not every battle is worth fighting, not every opinion is worth responding to, not every situation deserves your energy. And in that understanding, you find a sense of freedom that many people never experience. Choosing peace is not something you do once. It is something you practice daily, in small decisions. It is choosing not to react when you are triggered. It is choosing to let go when you feel the urge to hold on. It is choosing to focus on the present, instead of getting lost in thoughts. It is choosing yourself again and again, even when it feels uncomfortable. Over time, these small choices begin to shape your life. You become less reactive, less overwhelmed, and more present. You begin to notice that your mind is quieter, your emotions are more stable, and your life feels simpler. And perhaps the most powerful realization is this: peace was never something you had to search for outside. It was always within you, hidden beneath the noise, the attachment, and the constant need to control everything. The moment you stop feeding that noise, the moment you release what does not serve you, and the moment you choose yourself over everything that drains you, that peace begins to surface. So before it's too late, before time passes, and you look back with regret, make a different choice. Choose peace over arguments. Choose peace over proving yourself. Choose peace over holding on to what hurts you. Choose peace over overthinking every small detail. Because at the end of your life, you will not wish you had worried more, argued more, or held on longer. You will wish you had lived with more peace. And the truth is, you can start doing that right now. 10. Wake up before it's too late. The life you're missing while you're busy thinking. There is something deeply unsettling about the way most people live their lives, not because they are doing something obviously wrong, but because they are not fully aware of what they are losing every single day. Life is not taken away from you all at once. It is taken in small, quiet moments, moments you don't notice because you are distracted, thinking, worrying, or waiting for something else to happen. And before you realize it, years have passed, opportunities are gone, and the life you could have lived exists only in your imagination. Most people are not living their life, they are thinking about it. They are trapped inside their own mind, constantly analyzing the past, predicting the future, and reacting to things that don't even exist yet. Their body is present, but their awareness is somewhere else. They wake up and immediately enter a state of mental noise. They go through their day carrying stress that has nothing to do with the present moment. They go to sleep, still thinking about things they cannot change. And this cycle repeats, day after day, until it becomes normal. Buddhism teaches that this state of unconscious living is one of the greatest forms of suffering. Not because life is inherently painful, but because the mind creates pain by refusing to stay in the present. The mind constantly moves, searching for something, avoiding something, holding on to something, and in that movement, it pulls you away from the only place where life actually exists. Think about how many moments you have missed because your mind was somewhere else. Conversations where you were not fully listening, experiences where you were not fully present, opportunities where you hesitated because you were overthinking. Even simple moments, like sitting quietly, breathing, or enjoying a peaceful environment, are often lost because your mind is too busy creating noise. This is the hidden tragedy of overthinking. It does not just create stress, it steals your life. It takes away your ability to experience things as they are. It replaces real experiences with mental simulations. And over time, it creates a life where you feel disconnected, not because life is empty, but because you are not fully there to experience it. Waking up means becoming aware of this pattern. It means recognizing that your mind is not always working in your best interest. It means understanding that just because you are thinking something does not mean it is true, useful, or necessary. And most importantly, it means realizing that you have a choice to step out of this mental loop and return to the present moment. But waking up is not always comfortable. In fact, it can feel unsettling at first. When you stop distracting yourself with constant thinking, you begin to see things more clearly. You notice the patterns you have been repeating. You see the relationships that are draining you. You recognize the ways you have been avoiding yourself. And this awareness can be difficult to face. Many people prefer to stay distracted because it feels easier than confronting reality. It feels easier to keep thinking than to sit in silence. It feels easier to stay busy than to slow down and reflect. But this avoidance comes at a cost, the cost of your clarity, your growth, and your peace. Buddhism encourages you to face reality as it is, without adding extra layers of fear, judgment, or resistance. When you see things clearly, without distortion, you gain the ability to respond instead of react. You stop being controlled by your thoughts, and you start observing them. You stop being trapped in your emotions, and you begin to understand them. One of the most powerful ways to wake up is to bring your attention back to the present moment again and again. It sounds simple, but it requires practice. Your mind will try to pull you back into thinking, into worrying, into analyzing. But each time you notice this, you have an opportunity to return. You return to your breath, to your surroundings, to what is actually happening right now. You begin to feel life instead of just thinking about it. You notice the small details, the way the air feels, the sounds around you, the presence of the moment. And slowly, this awareness becomes stronger. When you are present, your mind becomes quieter. Not completely silent, but less overwhelming. Thoughts still come, but they no longer control you. Emotions still arise, but they pass more easily. You begin to experience a sense of calm that is not dependent on external conditions. Waking up also changes the way you approach problems. Instead of getting lost in endless thinking, you focus on what can actually be done. You take action where it is possible, and you let go where it is not. This creates a sense of balance, where you are engaged with life, but not overwhelmed by it. You also begin to see the impermanence of everything more clearly. You realize that situations change, people change, and even your own thoughts and emotions are constantly shifting. This understanding helps you detach from things that used to control you. You no longer feel the need to hold on to everything, because you see that nothing is meant to stay exactly as it is. Another important aspect of waking up is letting go of the idea that life should be a certain way. Many people suffer because reality does not match their expectations. They have a picture in their mind of how things should be, and when life does not follow that script, they feel frustrated, disappointed, or lost. But life is not meant to follow a fixed plan. It is unpredictable, constantly changing, and often uncertain. When you accept this, instead of resisting it, you begin to move with life instead of against it. You become more flexible, more open, and more resilient. Waking up also brings a deeper sense of gratitude. When you are fully present, you begin to appreciate things that you used to overlook. You realize that even ordinary moments have value. You notice the beauty in simplicity, the peace in stillness, and the richness of being alive. This does not mean life becomes perfect. There will still be challenges, difficulties, and moments of pain. But your relationship with these experiences changes. You no longer see them as something that should not exist. Instead, you accept them as part of life, and this acceptance reduces your suffering. One of the biggest regrets people have at the end of their life is not that they failed or struggled, but that they were not fully present. They regret the time they spent worrying instead of living. They regret the moments they missed because they were distracted. They regret not appreciating what they had when they had it. And this is why waking up now is so important. Because the longer you stay unconscious, the more life you lose. Not in a dramatic way, but in small, unnoticed moments that add up over time. Every day you have is an opportunity to live differently. Not by making huge changes all at once, but by becoming more aware of how you are spending your time and energy. By noticing when you are lost in thought and gently bringing yourself back. By choosing presence over distraction, clarity over confusion, and peace over constant mental noise. You don't need to wait for a major event to wake up. You don't need a crisis to realize what matters. You can start right now, in this moment, by simply becoming aware. Aware of your thoughts, aware of your surroundings, aware of your life as it is happening. Because the truth is, life is not something that will begin in the future. It is not something that exists in your thoughts. It is happening right now, in this moment, whether you are fully present for it or not. And one day, this moment will be gone. So wake up before it's too late. Not with fear, but with awareness. Not with pressure, but with clarity. Not by trying to control everything, but by learning to fully experience what is already here. Because when you truly wake up, you realize something that changes everything. You were never missing life. You were just not fully there to experience it. And now, you finally are. 11. Stop wasting your life. The price of ignoring what truly matters. There is a hard truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding, not because they cannot understand it, but because facing it requires a level of honesty that is uncomfortable, and that truth is this: you are slowly running out of time, and every day you spend ignoring what truly matters is a day you will never get back. Life does not pause for you to figure things out. It does not wait until you feel ready. It keeps moving forward, quietly, consistently, taking moments from you while you are busy being distracted by things that do not even deserve your attention. Most people are not intentionally wasting their life, but that is exactly what they are doing. Not in obvious ways, but in subtle patterns that repeat every single day. They wake up and immediately fill their mind with noise. They check their phone, they think about problems, they replay conversations, and before the day even begins, their mind is already exhausted. Then they move through the day reacting to everything, giving their energy to situations, people, and thoughts that leave them feeling drained. And at the end of the day, they wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel tired, and why their life does not feel meaningful. The truth is, it is not because life is empty, it is because their attention is being wasted. Your life is shaped by where your attention goes. What you focus on grows, and what you ignore fades away. If your attention is constantly on negativity, distractions, and things you cannot control, your life will feel chaotic and heavy. But if your attention is directed toward what truly matters, your peace, your growth, your presence, your values, your life begins to feel more grounded and meaningful. Buddhism teaches that suffering often comes from ignorance, not ignorance in the sense of lack of intelligence, but ignorance of what truly matters. People chase things that do not bring lasting fulfillment. They invest time in relationships that drain them. They worry about opinions that have no real impact on their life. And in doing so, they ignore the simple, powerful truth that their time and energy are limited. Think about how much of your life is spent on things that do not add value to you. How many hours are lost in overthinking, comparing yourself to others, seeking validation, or holding on to situations that no longer serve you? How often do you delay what is important because you are caught up in what is urgent but meaningless? These patterns may feel small in the moment, but over time they shape your entire life. One of the biggest reasons people waste their life is because they are constantly distracted. They are always looking for something to occupy their mind, something to escape into, something to avoid facing themselves. Silence feels uncomfortable, so they fill it with noise. Stillness feels unfamiliar, so they replace it with constant activity. But in avoiding silence and stillness, they also avoid clarity. Clarity comes when you slow down. It comes when you allow yourself to sit with your thoughts without running away from them. It comes when you step back and observe your life instead of constantly reacting to it. But this requires you to face things you may have been avoiding, your habits, your patterns, your attachments, and your fears. Another reason people waste their life is because they are living according to expectations that are not truly their own. They follow paths that others expect from them. They make decisions based on what will be accepted, approved, or admired. And in doing so, they lose connection with what they actually want, what actually matters to them, and what would truly bring them peace. Buddhism encourages you to look inward, to understand yourself beyond external influences. When you begin to understand your own values, your own priorities, and your own sense of purpose, you start making decisions that align with your true self. And this alignment creates a sense of peace that cannot be found through external approval. Wasting your life is not always about doing nothing. Sometimes it is about doing too much of the wrong things. It is about being busy, but not being present. It is about being productive, but not being fulfilled. It is about constantly moving without ever feeling like you are actually living. Many people fill their time with activity to avoid feeling empty. But activity without awareness does not create meaning. It only creates more distraction. Meaning comes from being fully present in what you are doing, from understanding why you are doing it, and from feeling connected to it. Another hidden way people waste their life is by holding on to things for too long. They stay in relationships that no longer bring them peace. They hold on to past mistakes and let them define their future. They keep trying to fix situations that are not meant to be fixed, and in doing so, they prevent themselves from moving forward. Letting go is not just about releasing something, it is about creating space. Space for growth, space for clarity, and space for new experiences. When you hold on to everything, there is no room for anything new to enter your life. And this creates a cycle where you feel stuck, not because there are no opportunities, but because you are not allowing yourself to move forward. Time is one of the most valuable things you have, but it is also the easiest to waste because you cannot see it being taken from you. It does not make noise when it passes. It does not warn you when it is running out. It simply moves forward moment by moment, whether you are aware of it or not. And one day, you will look back. You will look back at how you spent your time. You will look back at what you gave your energy to. You will look back at what you held on to and what you let go of. And in that moment, what will matter is not how busy you were, or how much you worried, or how many things you tried to control. What will matter is how present you were, how deeply you lived, and how much peace you allowed yourself to experience. Buddhism teaches that life is happening right now, not in the past, not in the future, but in this moment. And the more you become aware of this, the more intentional your life becomes. You start making choices that reflect what truly matters. You start letting go of things that do not serve you. You start protecting your energy because you understand its value. This does not mean your life becomes perfect. There will still be challenges, difficulties, and moments of uncertainty. But your relationship with these experiences changes. You no longer see them as something that should not exist. You see them as part of the journey, something to learn from, something to move through, not something to get stuck in. The real shift happens when you stop living on autopilot, when you stop repeating the same patterns without questioning them, when you stop reacting to everything and start responding with awareness. This is where your life begins to change, not through big, dramatic actions, but through small, consistent choices, choosing to be present instead of distracted, choosing to let go instead of holding on, choosing peace instead of unnecessary stress. These choices may seem small, but over time, they create a completely different life. You begin to feel more connected to yourself. You begin to experience more clarity and less confusion. You begin to find meaning in simple moments instead of constantly searching for something more. And perhaps the most important change is this: you stop feeling like you are wasting your life, because you are no longer waiting for something to happen. You are no longer delaying your happiness. You are no longer giving your energy to things that take away your peace. You are living fully in the present moment. So take a moment and ask yourself honestly, where is your life going right now? Not where you hope it will go, not where others expect it to go, but where it is actually going based on how you are living today. Are you investing your time in what truly matters? Are you protecting your energy or giving it away freely? Are you living with awareness or are you lost in distraction? These questions are not meant to create pressure, they are meant to create clarity. Because once you see clearly, you can choose differently. And that choice, the choice to stop wasting your life and start living it with awareness, is one of the most powerful decisions you can ever make. Before it's too late, make that decision. Not tomorrow, not when things feel easier, not when everything is perfect, but now. Because this moment, the one you are in right now, is your life, and how you choose to live it will define everything. 12. The final truth. Nothing you hold on to will stay, so live free now. There is a truth so simple, yet so deeply avoided, that once you truly understand it, your entire way of living begins to change. It is not a complicated idea, not something hidden or difficult to learn, but something so obvious that most people overlook it every single day. And that truth is this: nothing you are holding on to right now is meant to stay forever. Not the people, not the problems, not the emotions, not even the version of you that you are today. Everything is temporary, constantly changing, slowly moving forward, whether you accept it or not. And yet, despite knowing this at some level, people live as if things are permanent. They hold on tightly to relationships, even when those relationships are no longer bringing peace. They hold on to past mistakes, replaying them again and again as if thinking about them will somehow change what has already happened. They hold on to expectations, imagining how life should be instead of accepting how it is. And in doing so, they create a life filled with resistance, frustration, and quiet suffering. Buddhism teaches impermanence, not as something to fear, but as something to understand deeply. Because when you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, you stop trying to control everything. You stop expecting stability from things that are naturally unstable. You stop building your peace on things that are always changing. And instead, you begin to look for something deeper, something that does not disappear when circumstances change. The problem is not that things change. The problem is that you expect them not to. You expect people to remain the same, even though they are constantly evolving. You expect situations to stay stable, even though life is always moving. You expect emotions to last forever, even though they are temporary by nature. And when reality does not match these expectations, you feel disappointed, hurt, and lost. But what if the issue is not life itself, but the way you are holding on to it? Think about how much of your suffering comes from trying to hold on to something that is already changing. A relationship that is no longer the same. A moment that has already passed. A version of your life that no longer exists. You feel it slipping away, but instead of accepting it, you resist it. You try to bring it back, fix it, or hold on to it tighter. And in that resistance, you create pain. It is like standing in a river and trying to stop the water from flowing. The more you fight it, the more exhausted you become. But the moment you stop resisting and allow the water to move, something shifts. You are no longer fighting life. You are moving with it. This is what it means to live with awareness of impermanence. It does not mean you stop caring about things. It means you care without clinging. You appreciate without trying to control. You experience without trying to freeze the moment in time, because you understand that everything you're experiencing is temporary, and that is exactly what makes it meaningful. When you truly accept that nothing lasts forever, you begin to live differently. You stop delaying your happiness, thinking you will enjoy life later. You stop holding back your words, assuming there will always be another chance to say them. You stop wasting your energy on things that do not matter, because you understand how valuable your time really is. You begin to appreciate the present moment more deeply. A simple conversation, a quiet moment, a breath of fresh air, these things no longer feel ordinary because you know they will not last forever. And instead of rushing through them, you allow yourself to fully experience them. At the same time, you also become less affected by things that once disturbed you. Problems feel lighter because you know they will pass. Emotions feel less overwhelming because you understand they are temporary. Even difficult situations begin to feel more manageable because you are no longer trying to make them permanent in your mind. This is where true freedom begins, not when life becomes perfect, but when you stop expecting it to be. Not when everything stays the same, but when you learn to flow with change. Not when you control everything, but when you realize you don't need to. Another powerful shift that comes from understanding impermanence is the way you approach relationships. You no longer take people for granted because you know they will not always be there. You appreciate them while they are present, without becoming dependent on them for your happiness. And if they leave, you allow yourself to feel the loss. But you do not let it destroy you, because you understand that change is part of life. This does not mean you stop loving deeply. In fact, it allows you to love more freely. You love without fear of losing, because you accept that loss is a possibility. You love without trying to control the outcome, because you understand that relationships are always changing. And in that acceptance, your love becomes more genuine, more present, and less attached. Letting go becomes easier when you understand that nothing you are holding on to was ever meant to stay forever. You are not losing something permanent. You are simply experiencing a natural transition. And when you see it this way, you stop seeing letting go as an ending, and you begin to see it as part of the flow of life. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to let go is because they believe that holding on will somehow preserve what they had. But holding on does not stop change. It only creates resistance. And that resistance turns into suffering. Freedom comes when you release that resistance, when you stop trying to keep everything the same, when you stop clinging to what is already changing, and when you allow life to move as it is meant to move. This does not mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you become aware of what you can control and what you cannot, aware of what deserves your energy and what does not, aware of the present moment instead of being lost in the past or the future. And perhaps the most important awareness is this: your life is happening right now, not in your memories, not in your plans, but in this moment. And the more you attach yourself to things that are not here, the more you miss what is. There will come a day when everything you are experiencing now will be gone. The people, the places, the situations, all of it will change. And when that day comes, you will not wish you had held on tighter. You will wish you had been more present, more aware, more alive in the moments you had. So don't wait until it's too late to understand this. Don't wait until something is gone to appreciate it. Don't wait until time has passed to realize its value. Don't wait until life changes to start living fully. Because the truth is, life is always changing, whether you are ready or not. And the only thing you can truly do is decide how you respond to that change. You can resist it and suffer, or you can accept it and find peace. You can hold on and feel dragged, or you can let go and feel free. You can live in fear of losing, or you can live with awareness and appreciation. The choice is always yours. And when you choose to let go, not out of weakness, but out of understanding, you begin to experience a different kind of life. A life where you are no longer controlled by attachment. A life where you are no longer trapped by overthinking. A life where you are no longer wasting your time on things that do not matter. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to feel clearer. You begin to feel free. And in that freedom, you finally understand what it means to truly live. Not by holding on to everything, but by being fully present, fully aware, and fully alive in the moment you have right now. Because in the end, nothing you hold on to will stay, but the way you lived will always matter. 13. The end you never see coming. Why you must live differently now. There is something about the way life ends that most people are not prepared for. It does not always announce itself. It does not always give warnings, and it does not always arrive at a time that feels convenient or expected. Sometimes it comes quietly, like an ordinary day that suddenly becomes your last ordinary day. And the truth is, you will not know when that moment arrives. You will not know which conversation will be your final one, which morning will be your last, or which version of your life you are living for the final time. And yet, despite this reality, most people live as if they have unlimited time. They delay what matters. They ignore what they feel. They continue repeating patterns that bring them no peace. They keep giving their energy to things that drain them, thinking they will fix it later, change it later, or leave it later. But later is not guaranteed, and the life you keep postponing is the life you are slowly losing. Think about how you are living right now, not the version of life you imagine in your mind, but your actual daily experience, the thoughts you wake up with, the people you give your energy to, the things you spend your time worrying about. Ask yourself honestly, if nothing changed, if you continued living like this for years, would you feel fulfilled, or would you feel like you missed something important? This is not a question meant to create fear, but clarity, because most people do not realize they are wasting their life until they are forced to reflect on it. They go through the same routines, the same habits, the same emotional patterns, without ever stepping back to ask if this is truly the life they want to live. Buddhism teaches awareness of death, not as something negative, but as something that brings you closer to life. When you truly understand that your time is limited, you stop taking it for granted. You stop assuming there will always be another chance. And you begin to see your life with a different level of urgency, not panic, but purpose. This awareness changes the way you approach everything. It changes how you spend your time, how you treat people, and how you respond to situations. You begin to ask yourself deeper questions. Is this worth my energy? Does this align with who I want to be? Am I living in a way that I would be at peace with if this moment was my last? Most people never ask these questions, and because of that, they continue living in ways that do not serve them. They stay in relationships that feel empty. They continue chasing approval from people who do not truly see them. They hold on to anger, resentment, and past experiences that only bring them pain. And all of this takes away from the life they could be living. One of the biggest shifts that comes from understanding the reality of life ending is that you begin to let go more easily. You no longer feel the need to hold on to every argument, every misunderstanding, every negative thought. You realize that these things are not worth your limited time. You begin to value peace over being right, clarity over confusion, and presence over distraction. Imagine looking back at your life from the end. Imagine seeing all the moments you spent overthinking, all the energy you gave to people who did not value you, all the time you wasted worrying about things that never even happened. Would any of that feel important? Would any of that feel worth it? Or would you wish you had lived differently? Would you wish you had spoken more honestly, loved more freely, and appreciated more deeply? Would you wish you had spent less time inside your head and more time experiencing life? Would you wish you had let go sooner, instead of holding on to things that were never meant to stay? These are the realizations that often come too late for many people. But the truth is, you do not have to wait until the end to understand them. You can choose to live with that awareness now. Living with this awareness does not mean you become serious or fearful. It means you become intentional. You stop moving through life unconsciously, and you begin to make choices that reflect what truly matters. You stop giving your time away without thinking, and you start protecting it as something valuable. You begin to notice the difference between what is important and what is not. Many of the things that once seemed urgent no longer feel that way. Arguments lose their importance. Opinions lose their power. Small frustrations no longer disturb you as deeply, and in their place, something else begins to grow. A sense of calm, a sense of clarity, and a deeper connection to your life. Another powerful shift is how you experience the present moment. When you understand that this moment will not come again, you naturally begin to pay more attention to it. You listen more deeply. You observe more carefully. You allow yourself to fully experience what is happening instead of rushing through it or thinking about what comes next. This does not require anything extraordinary. It happens in simple moments. Sitting quietly, walking, talking to someone, or even just breathing. These moments, which often feel ordinary, begin to feel meaningful because you understand their temporary nature. At the same time, you also become more honest with yourself. You stop pretending that things are okay when they are not. You stop ignoring what you feel. You stop staying in situations that are clearly not right for you. Because deep down, you know that your time is too valuable to be spent living a life that does not feel true to you. This honesty can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary, because without it, you continue living in a way that slowly takes you further away from yourself, and the longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to change. Buddhism reminds you that change is always possible, but it requires awareness and action. It requires you to see clearly and then choose differently. It requires you to let go of what is not serving you and move toward what aligns with your true self. One of the most important aspects of living differently is learning to release the need for control. Much of your suffering comes from trying to control things that are not within your control. You try to control how others see you, how situations unfold, and how life moves. But life does not work that way, and the more you try to control it, the more frustrated you become. When you let go of this need, you begin to feel lighter. You focus on what you can control, your actions, your thoughts, your responses, and you allow everything else to be as it is. This creates a sense of balance where you are engaged with life, but not overwhelmed by it. Another important shift is learning to value your energy. Your energy is limited, and where you direct it shapes your life. If you constantly give it to negativity, overthinking, and unnecessary stress, your life will feel heavy. But if you direct it toward presence, growth, and meaningful experiences, your life will feel more fulfilling. This means being more selective about what you engage with. Not every situation deserves your attention. Not every thought deserves your focus. Not every person deserves your energy. And understanding this allows you to protect your peace in a way that most people never learn. Living differently also means being willing to let go of the familiar. Sometimes what is holding you back is not something obviously negative, but something that feels comfortable. A routine, a mindset, or a relationship that you have become used to, even if it no longer serves you. Letting go of this can feel difficult because it requires stepping into the unknown. But growth always requires stepping into something new. It requires leaving behind what is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And while this can feel uncertain, it also opens the door to a life that is more authentic and more fulfilling. As you begin to live with this awareness, you start to notice a deeper sense of peace within yourself. Not because life becomes easier, but because your relationship with life changes. You are no longer fighting against it, trying to control it, or getting lost in it. You are experiencing it, moment by moment, with clarity and acceptance. And perhaps the most important realization is this: the life you are living right now is not a rehearsal. It is not a practice run. It is your actual life. Every moment you are in is part of it, and once it passes, it is gone. So if there is something you need to let go of, let it go now. If there is something you need to say it now. If there is a way you want to live, start living it now. Do not wait for the perfect time, because it does not exist. Do not wait for everything to be in place, because it never will be. Do not wait until you feel completely ready, because that feeling may never come. Start where you are, with what you have, in this moment. Because one day, whether you are ready or not, this life will come to an end. And when that moment arrives, what will matter is not how much you thought about life, but how much you actually lived it. So wake up, become aware, and live differently. Not someday, but now. 14. Become untouchable. The peace no one can take from you. There is a level of peace that most people never experience, not because it is impossible to reach, but because they spend their entire life looking for it in the wrong places. They look for it in people, hoping someone will understand them enough to make them feel complete. They look for it in outcomes, believing that once everything goes their way, they will finally feel calm. They look for it in control, thinking that if they can manage every situation, every reaction, and every detail, they will be safe from stress and pain. But the truth is, anything you build your peace on outside of yourself can be taken away at any moment. And that is why most people feel unstable. Their emotions rise and fall depending on how others treat them. Their mood changes based on situations they cannot control. Their sense of self is influenced by opinions that have nothing to do with who they truly are. They are constantly reacting, constantly adjusting, constantly trying to protect something that feels fragile inside them. And because of that, they never feel fully at peace. To become untouchable does not mean you become cold, distant, or disconnected from life. It means you develop a level of inner stability that is not easily shaken by what happens outside of you. It means you can experience life fully, but you are no longer controlled by it. You can feel emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can face challenges without losing yourself. You can interact with people without depending on them for your sense of worth. Buddhism teaches that true peace comes from within, not from external conditions. It teaches that the more you attach your inner state to things that are constantly changing, the more unstable your peace becomes. But when you begin to shift your focus inward, when you start building a connection with yourself that is not dependent on anything outside, something powerful begins to happen. You begin to feel grounded. You begin to feel stable. You begin to feel like you are no longer being pulled in every direction by every small thing that happens around you. One of the first steps to becoming untouchable is learning to stop reacting to everything. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. Someone says something and they immediately respond emotionally. Something does not go their way and their mood shifts instantly. A small problem appears and it takes over their entire mind. This pattern creates a life where you are always being controlled by external events. But the moment you create a pause between what happens and how you respond, everything begins to change. That pause is where your power exists. It allows you to observe instead of react. It allows you to choose your response instead of being controlled by your impulse. And over time, this creates a sense of calm that is not easily disturbed. This does not mean you stop feeling emotions. It means you stop being controlled by them. You allow yourself to feel what you feel, but you do not let it define your actions or your state of mind. You understand that emotions are temporary, that they rise and fall like waves, and that you do not need to follow every feeling that appears. Another important step is letting go of the need for validation. Many people spend their entire life trying to be seen, understood, and approved by others. They adjust their behavior, their words, and even their identity to fit what they think others expect from them. And in doing so, they lose connection with their true self. The more you depend on validation, the more control you give away. Your sense of worth becomes tied to how others see you. And because you cannot control how others think, you will always feel uncertain. But when you begin to validate yourself, when you begin to trust your own thoughts, your own values, and your own direction, something shifts. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You no longer feel disturbed by every opinion. You become steady within yourself. Buddhism encourages self-awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts, your patterns, and your attachments without judgment. When you become aware of how much you rely on external validation, you begin to release it. You start making decisions based on what feels right to you, not based on what will be accepted by others. This creates a deep sense of freedom. You are no longer trying to fit into every space. You are no longer trying to be understood by everyone. You are simply being yourself, without the constant pressure to perform. Another key aspect of becoming untouchable is learning to protect your energy. Your energy is one of your most valuable resources, but most people give it away without thinking. They engage in unnecessary arguments. They overthink situations that do not matter. They stay connected to people who constantly drain them. And over time, this creates a state of exhaustion. Protecting your energy means being selective about what you engage with. It means understanding that not everything deserves your attention. It means choosing silence over unnecessary conversation, distance over toxic connection, and clarity over confusion. This does not make you weak or disconnected. It makes you aware. You begin to notice how certain people affect your state of mind. You begin to recognize which situations bring peace and which create stress. And with this awareness, you begin to make different choices. You start creating boundaries. You start saying no without guilt. You start walking away from what disturbs your peace. And slowly, your life begins to feel lighter. Another important shift is letting go of control. Many people believe that control will protect them, but in reality, it creates tension. You try to control how things unfold, how people behave, and how life moves. But life is unpredictable. The more you try to control it, the more frustrated you become. Letting go of control does not mean you become passive. It means you focus on what you can control, your actions, your mindset, your responses, and you allow everything else to be as it is. This creates a sense of balance where you are engaged with life, but not overwhelmed by it. Buddhism teaches acceptance not as a form of giving up, but as a form of understanding. When you accept reality as it is without adding resistance, you reduce your suffering. You stop fighting what cannot be changed, and you start working with what is in front of you. This creates a calm that is not dependent on circumstances. You are no longer waiting for everything to be perfect to feel okay. You are okay even when things are not perfect. And that is true strength. Becoming untouchable also means learning to be comfortable alone. Not lonely, but alone in a way that feels peaceful. Many people fear being alone because it forces them to face themselves. It removes distractions and reveals what is happening inside. But this is also where growth happens. When you are comfortable with yourself, you no longer depend on constant interaction to feel okay. You enjoy your own presence. You listen to your own thoughts. You build a relationship with yourself that is not based on external input. And in that space, you become stronger. You become more clear about what you want. You become more aware of what you need, and you become less affected by what others do. Over time, all of these shifts begin to come together. You become less reactive, less dependent, less attached. You begin to move through life with a sense of calm that does not fluctuate with every small change. People may notice it, they may feel your presence differently, they may even question it. But this calm is not something you are trying to show. It is something you have built within yourself. And once you reach this level, something important becomes clear. You are no longer trying to control life. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. You are no longer chasing something outside of you. You are simply living with awareness, with clarity, and with a sense of peace that cannot easily be taken away. This does not mean life will stop challenging you. Difficult situations will still arise. People will still act in ways you cannot control. But your response will be different. You will face these moments without losing yourself. You will move through them without carrying unnecessary weight. And that is what it means to be untouchable. Not that nothing affects you, but that nothing controls you. So if you want to build a life where your peace is not constantly disturbed, where your mind is not always overwhelmed, and where your energy is not being drained by everything around you, then the path is clear. Stop reacting to everything. Stop seeking validation from everyone. Stop giving your energy to what does not deserve it. Stop trying to control what you cannot. And most importantly, start returning to yourself. Because at the end of everything, when all the noise fades and all the distractions disappear, the only thing that will remain is your relationship with yourself. And if that relationship is strong, grounded, and peaceful, then nothing outside of you will ever have the power to take that away. That is true freedom. That is real strength. And that is the life most people only understand when it is already too late. 15. The life you'll wish you lived. Build it before it's gone. There is a version of your life that you will one day look back on, not the life you imagined in your head, not the one you planned perfectly, but the one you actually lived, the one shaped by your daily choices, your habits, your focus, and your awareness. And in that moment of reflection, when everything slows down and the noise fades, you will not be asking how much you achieved or how much you controlled. You will be asking something much deeper. Did I truly live, or did I spend my life distracted, attached, and lost in things that never really mattered? Most people assume they will figure life out later. They believe there will be a moment when everything becomes clear, when they will finally start living the way they always wanted to. But the truth is, that moment does not arrive on its own. It is created through the way you live right now. The life you will wish you lived is not something you build in the future. It is something you either build or neglect in this very moment. Think about how often you postpone what matters. You delay peace, telling yourself you will feel calm when everything is fixed. You delay happiness, thinking it will come when you reach a certain point. You delay change, waiting for the perfect time to begin. But while you are waiting, life is not waiting with you. It is moving forward, taking your time, shaping your experience, and turning your present into your past. Buddhism teaches that attachment and ignorance are the main reasons people suffer, not because life is cruel, but because people are unaware of how they are living it. They chase what they think will fulfill them, while ignoring what is already in front of them. They hold on to things that are clearly not serving them, while letting go of what actually matters. And in doing so, they create a life that feels empty, not because it lacks meaning, but because they are not fully present to experience it. The life you will wish you lived is not complicated. It is not built on extreme success, constant excitement, or perfect circumstances. It is built on presence, awareness, and intentional choices. It is built on how you respond to everyday moments, how you treat people, how you manage your thoughts, and how you protect your energy. Imagine a life where you are no longer constantly overthinking, where your mind is not filled with endless noise, but with clarity and calm, where you are not replaying the past or worrying about the future, but actually experiencing the present moment. This is not a distant idea, it is a choice that begins with how you relate to your thoughts right now. Overthinking is one of the biggest reasons people miss their life. It takes simple moments and turns them into stress. It creates problems where there are none. It keeps you stuck in a loop of analysis that never leads to peace. And while you are caught in this loop, life continues to move forward without you fully experiencing it. The life you will wish you lived is one where you were present more than you were lost in thought, where you allowed moments to be what they are, instead of constantly trying to control or analyze them, where you trusted yourself enough to act instead of hesitating because of fear. Another important part of this life is the way you handle relationships. Most people spend too much time trying to hold on to people who are not meant to stay. They chase understanding from those who do not offer it. They invest energy into connections that drain them, and in doing so, they lose themselves. The life you will wish you lived is one where you chose yourself without guilt, where you respected your boundaries, protected your peace, and walked away from what did not align with you. Not out of anger, but out of awareness, because you understood that your time and energy are limited and you chose not to waste them. This does not mean you stop caring about people. It means you care without losing yourself. You love without becoming dependent. You give without expecting something in return. And if something is no longer right for you, you have the strength to let it go. Letting go is one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to live a life you will not regret. Not everything is meant to stay. Not every chapter is meant to continue. And holding on to what is already changing only creates suffering. The life you will wish you lived is one where you allowed things to end when they needed to, instead of forcing them to stay. There is also a deep connection between the life you live and the way you handle problems. Many people spend their time carrying problems that are not theirs, worrying about outcomes they cannot control, and creating stress through resistance. They believe that by thinking more, they will find solutions. But often, they only create more confusion. The life you will wish you lived is one where you focused on what you could control and released what you could not, where you took action when it was possible and accepted reality when it was not, where your mind was not constantly burdened by unnecessary weight, but clear enough to move forward. Buddhism teaches acceptance, not as a form of giving up, but as a form of clarity. When you accept what is, you stop wasting energy on what is not. You stop fighting reality, and you begin to work with it. This creates a sense of calm that allows you to move through life with less resistance. Another key part of this life is how you use your time. Time is one of the few things you can never get back, yet it is often treated as if it is unlimited. People spend hours on distractions, on things that do not add value, on thoughts that do not serve them. And while they are doing this, they are slowly losing the opportunity to build something meaningful. The life you will wish you lived is one where you were aware of how you used your time, where you did not waste it on things that drained you, where you invested it in growth, in presence, in experiences that actually mattered, where you understood that every moment is part of your life, not something separate from it. It is also a life where you were honest with yourself, where you did not ignore what you felt or pretend that everything was fine when it was not, where you faced your patterns, your fears, and your habits with awareness, because without this honesty, you continue living in a way that slowly takes you further away from yourself. Growth does not happen by accident. It happens when you are willing to see clearly and choose differently. It happens when you stop repeating the same patterns and start creating new ones. And this requires effort, but it is the kind of effort that leads to a more peaceful and meaningful life. The life you will wish you lived is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters. It is about simplifying your focus, reducing unnecessary noise, and creating space for clarity. It is about understanding that not everything deserves your attention and choosing carefully where you direct your energy. there is also a sense of freedom that comes with living this way. You are no longer controlled by every thought, every emotion, or every situation. You are not constantly reacting, but responding with awareness. You are not trying to control everything, but working with what is in front of you. And in that freedom, something changes. Life feels lighter, your mind feels clearer, your relationships feel more balanced, and most importantly, you feel more connected to yourself. This is not something that happens suddenly. It is built over time, through small, consistent choices. Choosing to be present instead of distracted. Choosing to let go instead of holding on. Choosing peace instead of unnecessary stress. Each of these choices may seem small, but together they shape your life. And one day, when you look back, you will see the result of those choices. You will see whether you lived with awareness or distraction. You will see whether you chose peace or constant stress. You will see whether you held on or learned to let go. And in that moment, you will understand what truly mattered. 19. Discipline over feelings. The daily choice that changes everything. There is a silent battle happening inside you every single day. A battle that most people never fully recognize, yet it shapes the direction of their entire life. It is not a battle with other people, not a battle with circumstances, but a battle between what you feel like doing and what you know you should do. And the outcome of this battle determines whether your life moves forward with clarity and purpose, or stays stuck in cycles of distraction, overthinking, and wasted time. Most people live based on how they feel. If they feel motivated, they take action. If they feel tired, they delay. If they feel uncomfortable, they avoid. If they feel uncertain, they hesitate. And because feelings constantly change, their actions become inconsistent. One day they are focused, the next day they are lost. One moment they are clear, the next they are overwhelmed. This creates a life that feels unstable, not because they lack potential, but because they are being controlled by something that is always shifting. Buddhism teaches awareness of the mind and its patterns, and one of the most important patterns to understand is this. Feelings are temporary, but the consequences of your actions are not. If you let your feelings decide everything, you will often choose comfort over growth, distraction over presence, and avoidance over clarity. And over time, these choices shape a life that feels disconnected and unfulfilled. Discipline is the ability to act with awareness instead of reacting to how you feel in the moment. It is not about forcing yourself in a harsh way, but about creating a steady direction for your life. It is about choosing what aligns with your values, even when it feels uncomfortable. And this is where most people struggle, because discipline often asks you to go against your immediate desires. Think about how many times you have delayed something important because you did not feel like doing it. Not because it was impossible, but because your mind created resistance. It told you it could wait. It told you you would do it later. It told you it was not the right time. And in that moment, you listened to your feeling instead of your awareness. Now, imagine what would happen if you stopped waiting to feel ready. If you acted based on what you know is right, instead of what feels easy. Your life would begin to change, not in a dramatic way, but in a consistent, steady way. And over time, that consistency creates results that most people never achieve. Discipline is not just about work or productivity. It applies to your thoughts, your reactions, and your habits. It is choosing not to overthink, even when your mind wants to spiral. It is choosing not to react, even when you feel triggered. It is choosing to let go, even when holding on feels familiar. One of the biggest areas where discipline is needed is in your mind. Your mind will constantly produce thoughts, many of them unnecessary, repetitive, or negative. If you follow every thought, you will be pulled in different directions throughout the day. You will lose focus, lose clarity, and lose control over your inner state. Mental discipline means learning to observe your thoughts without engaging with all of them. It means recognizing when a thought is not useful and choosing not to follow it. It means bringing your attention back to the present moment, again and again, even when your mind tries to pull you away. This is not easy at first. Your mind is used to constant movement. It is used to analyzing, worrying, and reacting. But with practice, you begin to create space between yourself and your thoughts. And in that space, you find control. Another important aspect of discipline is how you handle discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort because it feels unpleasant. But growth often requires stepping into discomfort. It requires doing things that are not immediately rewarding. It requires patience, effort, and consistency. When you avoid discomfort, you stay in the same place. When you face it, you expand. This applies to every area of your life, your work, your relationships, your personal growth. The more you become comfortable with discomfort, the more capable you become. Buddhism teaches acceptance not just of external situations, but of internal experiences as well. This means accepting that discomfort is part of the process. It means not resisting it or running away from it, but allowing it to be there without letting it control your actions. Discipline also plays a role in how you use your time. Time is one of the few things you cannot get back. Yet it is often wasted on distractions, overthinking, and unnecessary activities. Most people do not intentionally waste their time, but they do not protect it either. Protecting your time requires discipline. It means being intentional about what you do and what you avoid. It means setting boundaries, saying no when necessary, and focusing on what truly matters. And while this may feel restrictive at first, it actually creates more freedom in the long run, because when you use your time wisely, you create space for what is important. You create space for growth, for meaningful experiences, and for peace. And this changes the quality of your life. Another area where discipline is essential is in relationships. It is easy to react emotionally when someone says or does something that triggers you. It is easy to engage in arguments, to try to prove a point, or to hold on to resentment. But these reactions often create more problems than they solve. Emotional discipline means pausing before you react. It means choosing your response instead of acting on impulse. It means understanding that not every situation needs your reaction, and that sometimes silence or distance is the better choice. This does not mean you suppress your emotions. It means you manage them. You feel what you feel, but you do not let it control your behavior. And this creates healthier, more balanced interactions. Discipline is also about consistency. It is not about making one big change and expecting everything to shift. It is about small, repeated actions over time. It is about showing up for yourself, even when you do not feel like it. Most people look for motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It does not depend on how you feel. It is a decision you make again and again. And this is where real change happens. When you consistently choose awareness over distraction. When you consistently choose action over hesitation. When you consistently choose peace over reaction. These choices may seem small, but they create a powerful momentum. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more. You know that you will do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. You know that you can handle discomfort. You know that you can stay focused, even when your mind tries to pull you away. This creates confidence, not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from within. The kind that is built on your own actions and consistency. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of right effort, the idea of applying consistent, mindful effort in your life. This effort is not about forcing or struggling, but about staying aligned with what is beneficial. It is about creating habits that support your growth and letting go of those that do not. When you combine discipline with awareness, something powerful happens. You are no longer acting blindly or reacting automatically. You are making conscious choices that shape your life in a meaningful way. And this is what separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck. It is not intelligence, not luck, not even opportunity. It is the ability to act consistently, regardless of how you feel. There will always be days when you feel unmotivated, distracted, or uncertain. That is part of being human. But those days do not have to define your actions. You can still choose to move forward, even in small ways. And those small actions matter more than you think. They build momentum. They create progress. They shape your identity. Because over time, you become what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly choose distraction, your life will reflect that. If you repeatedly choose awareness and discipline, your life will reflect that too. So the question is not what you feel like doing in this moment. The question is what kind of life you want to build. Do you want a life controlled by temporary feelings, or a life guided by conscious choices? Do you want a life of inconsistency, or a life of steady growth? Do you want a life of reaction, or a life of awareness? The choice is yours, and it is made in small moments, every single day. When you choose discipline over feelings, you are not ignoring yourself, you are guiding yourself. You are choosing a direction that leads to something better, even if it feels uncomfortable in the moment. And over time, this choice changes everything. Your mind becomes clearer, your actions become stronger, your life becomes more aligned with what truly matters, and you begin to experience something that most people never reach. A sense of control, not over everything, but over yourself. And that is where real power begins. 20. The last lesson, live so fully that nothing feels wasted. There is a moment that comes for everyone, whether they admit it or not, a moment of reflection where the noise fades, the distractions lose their importance, and the truth becomes impossible to ignore. In that moment, you don't think about the small arguments you won, the opinions you defended, or the things you worried about endlessly. You think about how you lived. You think about whether you were present or distracted, peaceful or constantly stressed, aware or lost inside your own mind. And what you feel in that moment is not determined by what you had, but by how deeply you experienced your life. Most people spend their entire lives trying to build something, more success, more recognition, more control, more security. And while there is nothing wrong with growth, the problem is that they forget to live while they are building. They delay their presence, thinking they will enjoy life once everything is in place. But life does not wait for everything to be perfect. It is happening right now in the middle of your unfinished goals, your imperfect situations, and your uncertain path. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is the only place where life exists. The past is a memory, the future is an idea, but this moment is real. And yet, most people are rarely here. They are thinking about what already happened or worrying about what might happen. They are physically present, but mentally somewhere else. And because of that, they miss the very thing they are trying to build, a life that feels meaningful. Living fully does not mean doing more. It means being more present in what you are already doing. It means bringing your full attention to the moment instead of dividing it between thoughts, distractions, and worries. It means when you are working, you are truly working. When you are resting, you are truly resting. When you are with someone, you are fully there with them. Think about how many moments you have rushed through without truly experiencing them. Conversations where you were not fully listening. Time spent with people where your mind was somewhere else. Even moments alone where instead of being at peace, you filled the silence with unnecessary thoughts. These moments may seem small, but they are your life. The life you will remember is not made up of big events alone. It is made up of everyday experiences, how you felt, how you responded, how present you were. And when you begin to live with this awareness, something changes. You stop rushing through your days. You stop treating moments as something to get through, and you start experiencing them as something valuable. Another important part of living fully is letting go of what does not matter. You cannot live deeply if your mind is constantly occupied with things that drain you. If you are always thinking about problems you cannot control, people who do not value you, or situations that are already over, your attention is taken away from what is in front of you. Letting go is not just about releasing something, it is about creating space. Space in your mind, space in your emotions, and space in your life. And in that space, you are able to experience things more clearly, more deeply, and more peacefully. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, not as a way of avoiding life, but as a way of engaging with it without unnecessary suffering. When you are attached, you cling to outcomes, expectations, and control. And this clinging creates tension. But when you let go, you allow life to move naturally. You experience things as they are, without constantly trying to change or control them. This creates a sense of ease. Life feels less forced. Your mind feels less crowded. Your emotions feel less overwhelming. And in that ease, you begin to live more fully. Living fully also means being honest with yourself. It means acknowledging when something is not right, when a situation is draining you, when a habit is holding you back. Many people avoid this honesty because it requires change. It requires stepping out of what is familiar and comfortable. But without this honesty, you continue living in a way that slowly takes you further away from yourself. When you are honest, you begin to make different choices. You start aligning your actions with your values. You start letting go of what does not serve you. And you begin to build a life that feels more authentic. Another key aspect of living fully is how you handle your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your experience. If your mind is filled with negativity, stress, and constant analysis, your life will feel heavy. But if your mind is clear, focused, and aware, your life will feel lighter. This does not mean you control every thought. It means you become aware of them. You observe them without getting lost in them. You choose which ones to follow and which ones to let go. And over time, this creates a healthier relationship with your mind. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, the practice of being fully present and aware without judgment. This practice is what allows you to live fully. It brings your attention back to the moment. It helps you experience life directly instead of through constant thinking. Mindfulness is not something complicated. It is simply noticing. Noticing your breath, your surroundings, your actions. It is bringing your awareness to what is happening right now. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Living fully also means accepting that life is not perfect. There will be challenges, difficulties, and moments of discomfort. But these moments do not have to take away from your life. When you accept them, instead of resisting them, they become part of your experience instead of obstacles to it. Acceptance does not mean you give up or stop trying. It means you stop fighting reality. You work with what is in front of you instead of wishing it was different. And this creates a sense of calm, even in difficult situations. Another important realization is that time is limited, not in a way that creates fear, but in a way that creates awareness. When you understand that your time is not infinite, you begin to use it differently. You become more intentional. You stop wasting it on things that do not matter. You start focusing on what is important. You begin to ask yourself questions like, is this worth my energy? Is this how I want to spend my time? Is this aligned with the life I want to live? And these questions guide your choices. Living fully is not about doing everything. It is about doing what matters. It is about choosing where you direct your attention and your energy. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. There is also a sense of freedom that comes with living this way. You are no longer trapped by constant thinking. You are no longer reacting to everything. You are no longer chasing things that do not bring you peace. Instead, you are present. You are aware. You are connected to your life. And this creates a deep sense of fulfillment, not because everything is perfect, but because you are fully experiencing what is. At the end of everything, when you look back on your life, what will matter is not how much you controlled or how much you worried. What will matter is how you lived. Did you allow yourself to be present? Did you protect your peace? Did you let go of what did not matter? Did you truly experience your life? These are the questions that will define your reflection. And the good news is, you do not have to wait until that moment to answer them. You can start now. Start by being more present in small moments. Start by letting go of unnecessary thoughts. Start by choosing peace over stress. Start by aligning your actions with what truly matters. Because the life you will remember is not something that happens later. It is something you are creating right now, moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought. So live in a way where nothing feels wasted, not because you did everything perfectly, but because you were present for what mattered, because you chose awareness over distraction, because you chose peace over chaos, because you chose to truly live. And in the end, that is all that matters. 21. Become the person who can walk away from anything. There is a level of freedom that most people never experience, not because it is impossible to reach, but because they are holding on to too many things that quietly control them. They are attached to people, attached to outcomes, attached to comfort, attached to the need to be understood, and because of these attachments, they are not truly free. They may look independent on the outside, but internally, their peace depends on things that are always changing, and anything your peace depends on can be taken away at any moment. To become the person who can walk away from anything does not mean you stop caring, and it does not mean you detach from life in a cold or distant way. It means you develop a level of inner strength where you are not controlled by what you are connected to. You can be involved without being dependent. You can care without losing yourself. You can experience without clinging. Most people struggle with this because they confuse attachment with importance. They believe that holding on tightly means something matters more. They believe that if they let go, it means they are giving up or losing something valuable. But the truth is, the tighter you hold on to something, the more power you give it over you. Think about how much control certain things have over your emotions. A person's response can change your mood. A situation not going your way can disturb your entire day. A thought can take over your mind and keep you stuck for hours. This is not because these things are inherently powerful, it is because of the attachment you have to them. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, not because life should be empty, but because clinging creates dependence, and dependence creates instability. When your peace depends on something external, you are constantly at risk of losing it. Becoming someone who can walk away begins with awareness. You have to see clearly what you are attached to, not just in obvious ways, but in subtle ones. The need for validation, the need for control, the need for certain outcomes. These attachments may not always be visible, but they influence your decisions, your reactions, and your state of mind. Once you become aware, the next step is understanding that you do not need these things to be okay. This is where most people struggle, because they have built their sense of stability around external factors. They believe they need certain people, certain conditions, or certain outcomes to feel complete. But the truth is, everything you are looking for outside already exists within you. Your peace, your stability, your sense of self, these are not things that come from the outside. They are things you develop internally. Walking away becomes possible when you stop believing that something outside of you is necessary for your peace. When you realize that your well-being does not depend on a person staying, a situation working out, or an outcome being perfect, you begin to loosen your grip. This does not mean you stop valuing things, it means you stop depending on them. Another important part of this is learning to accept change. Everything in life is temporary. People change, situations change, and even your own thoughts and feelings are constantly shifting. When you try to hold on to something that is naturally changing, you create resistance, and that resistance becomes suffering. Walking away is not always about physically leaving something. Sometimes it is about emotionally releasing it. It is about accepting that something is no longer aligned with you and allowing it to be what it is without trying to control it. This requires courage. It requires you to step into uncertainty. It requires you to trust that letting go will not leave you empty, but will create space for something new. One of the biggest fears people have is the fear of being alone. This fear keeps them attached to things that are not right for them. They stay in relationships that drain them. They hold on to situations that bring them stress. They avoid change because they are afraid of what comes after. But being alone is not the same as being empty. In fact, it is often in moments of solitude that you reconnect with yourself. You begin to understand your own thoughts, your own needs, and your own values without external influence. When you are comfortable being alone, you are no longer controlled by the fear of losing people or situations. You are able to walk away from what does not serve you because you know you will be okay on your own. Buddhism encourages self-awareness and inner stability. It teaches that true peace comes from within, not from external conditions. When you develop this inner stability, you are no longer easily shaken by what happens outside of you. You begin to move through life with a different kind of confidence. Not the loud, external kind, but a quiet, steady confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. Walking away also means letting go of the need for control. You cannot control how others behave. You cannot control every outcome. And trying to do so only creates frustration. When you let go of this need, you free yourself from unnecessary stress. You focus on what you can control, your actions, your mindset, your responses, and you allow everything else to unfold as it will. This creates a sense of balance. You are engaged with life, but not overwhelmed by it. Another important aspect is learning to let go of the need to be understood. Not everyone will see you clearly. Not everyone will understand your intentions or your perspective. And that is okay. Trying to make everyone understand you is exhausting. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of explaining and defending. But when you accept that not everyone needs to understand you, you free yourself from that cycle. You begin to trust your own understanding of yourself. You no longer seek constant validation. And this creates a sense of independence that is not easily disturbed. Walking away is also about protecting your energy. Your energy is limited, and where you direct it shapes your life. If you constantly give it to things that drain you, you will feel exhausted. But if you protect it and invest it wisely, you will feel more balanced and focused. This means being selective about what you engage with. Not every situation deserves your attention, not every person deserves your time, and not every thought deserves your focus. When you become more selective, your life becomes simpler, your mind becomes clearer, and your energy becomes more aligned with what truly matters. Over time, all of these changes begin to come together. You become less attached, less reactive, and more aware. You begin to move through life with a sense of ease that does not depend on external conditions. You are no longer controlled by fear, by attachment, or by the need for control. You are grounded in yourself, and in that state, walking away becomes natural. Not because you are trying to escape, but because you recognize what is not aligned with you. You no longer stay in situations that drain you. You no longer hold on to things that are clearly changing. You no longer depend on others for your peace. You choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of awareness. And this is where true freedom begins. Not when everything in your life is perfect, but when you are no longer controlled by anything outside of you. Because the moment you become the person who can walk away from anything, you are no longer afraid of losing. You are no longer afraid of change. You are no longer afraid of being alone. You are simply free to live your life with clarity, with peace, and with a deep understanding that nothing outside of you has the power to define your inner state. And that is a level of freedom that most people spend their entire life searching for. But it is not something you find. It is something you become. 22. The silent upgrade. How your life changes when you stop needing everyone. There is a quiet transformation that happens in a person's life, not loud, not dramatic, and not always visible to others, but deeply powerful. It is the moment you stop needing everyone. Not in a cold or distant way, not in a way that disconnects you from people, but in a way that frees you from dependence. It is when you realize that your peace, your direction, and your sense of self do not have to come from outside of you. And once this realization settles in, your entire life begins to shift in ways that most people cannot even understand. Most people are taught, directly or indirectly, to rely on others for validation, for approval, for emotional stability. From a young age, they learn to adjust themselves based on how others respond. They learn to seek acceptance, to avoid rejection, and to shape their behavior around what keeps them connected to others. And while connection is important, this constant need for validation creates a hidden dependency. This dependency shows up in subtle ways. You feel uneasy when someone does not respond the way you expected. You question yourself when someone misunderstands you. You feel the urge to explain, to justify, to make sure you are seen in a certain way. And over time, this pattern takes away your independence. It ties your inner state to something you cannot fully control, how others perceive and respond to you. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, and this includes non-attachment to approval. When your sense of self is built on external validation, it becomes unstable. Because people's opinions change, their moods shift, and their perceptions are influenced by things that have nothing to do with you. And if you are constantly adjusting yourself based on these shifting factors, you lose your center. The silent upgrade begins when you start building that center within yourself, when you begin to validate your own thoughts, trust your own decisions, and accept your own identity without needing constant confirmation from others. This is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is the understanding that you do not need everyone to agree with you in order to be okay. As you begin to rely less on external validation, something subtle but powerful changes. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop trying to make everyone understand your perspective. You stop seeking approval before making decisions, and instead you begin to move with a quiet confidence that comes from within. This confidence is not loud. It does not need to be shown or proven. It is steady, grounded, and consistent. It allows you to act without hesitation, to speak without fear, and to remain calm even when others do not agree with you. Another important shift that happens is how you experience relationships. When you no longer need others to complete you, your relationships become healthier. You are no longer attached in a way that creates pressure or expectation. You are not constantly seeking reassurance or validation. Instead, you connect with people from a place of wholeness. You give because you want to, not because you need something in return. You listen without trying to control the outcome. You engage without losing yourself. And this creates a different kind of connection, one that is based on mutual respect rather than dependency. Buddhism teaches that attachment creates suffering, and one of the strongest attachments people have is to the idea of being understood by everyone. They want their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions to be recognized and accepted. But the truth is, not everyone will understand you, and that is okay. When you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you free yourself from a constant struggle. You no longer feel the need to explain every action. You no longer feel disturbed by every misunderstanding. You accept that some people will see you clearly and others will not, and you are okay with that. This acceptance creates a deep sense of peace, because you are no longer trying to control how you are perceived. You are simply being yourself. Another part of this silent upgrade is learning to be comfortable alone, not lonely, but alone in a way that feels peaceful. Many people avoid being alone because it forces them to face their own thoughts and emotions. They fill their time with distractions, conversations, and noise to avoid this discomfort. But when you allow yourself to be alone, you begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. You become aware of your patterns, your habits, and your thoughts. You begin to build a relationship with yourself that is not influenced by others. And in that relationship, you find stability. You realize that you do not need constant interaction to feel okay. You do not need external noise to fill your mind. You are able to sit with yourself and feel at peace. This does not mean you isolate yourself from others. It means you no longer depend on them to feel complete. You choose connection, but you do not rely on it. As you continue this process, you also become more selective with your energy. You begin to notice how certain people and situations affect you. You recognize what brings peace and what creates stress. And with this awareness, you make different choices. You spend more time in environments that support your growth. You limit your exposure to negativity and unnecessary drama. You protect your time and attention more carefully. This selectiveness is not about avoiding life. It is about creating a life that aligns with your well-being. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, the practice of being aware of your thoughts, actions, and surroundings. When you are mindful, you are not acting automatically. You are choosing consciously, and this awareness extends to your relationships and interactions. You begin to notice when you are seeking validation. You notice when you are adjusting yourself to fit in. You notice when you are giving your energy away unnecessarily. And with this awareness, you begin to shift your behavior. Another important aspect of this upgrade is letting go of the need to please everyone. Many people spend their lives trying to keep others happy, often at the expense of their own peace. They say yes when they want to say no. They agree when they actually disagree. They avoid conflict even when it is necessary. But this constant need to please creates imbalance. It leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a loss of authenticity. When you stop needing everyone, you begin to set boundaries. You say no when something does not align with you. You express your thoughts honestly. You prioritize your well-being without feeling guilty. This does not mean you become selfish. It means you become balanced. You care about others, but you do not sacrifice yourself in the process. As these changes take place, your life begins to feel different. Not because everything around you has changed, but because your relationship with it has changed. You are no longer reacting to everything. You are no longer seeking approval from everyone. You are no longer depending on others for your peace. You are grounded in yourself. This grounding creates a sense of stability that is not easily shaken. You are able to move through life with clarity, even when things are uncertain. You are able to handle challenges without losing yourself. You are able to engage with others without becoming emotionally dependent. And this is where true freedom begins. Not when you have everything you want, but when you no longer need everything to be a certain way to feel okay. Because when you stop needing everyone, you stop being controlled by them. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop adjusting yourself to fit expectations. And instead, you begin to live in a way that is aligned with who you truly are. This is the silent upgrade. It does not announce itself. It does not need recognition. It does not require approval, but it changes everything. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotions become more stable. Your relationships become healthier. Your life becomes more intentional. And most importantly, you feel a sense of peace that is not dependent on anything outside of you. So if you want to experience this shift, start by paying attention. Notice where you are seeking validation. Notice where you are depending on others for your peace. Notice where you are adjusting yourself to fit expectations. And then slowly, begin to change. Not all at once, but step by step. Choose to trust yourself a little more. Choose to set a boundary when needed. Choose to be okay with not being understood by everyone, because the more you do this, the more you will realize something powerful. You were never lacking anything. You were just looking for it in the wrong places. And the moment you stop needing everyone, you finally return to yourself. And that is where everything begins. 23. The inner authority. Stop asking the world for permission to be yourself. There is a quiet habit that controls more of your life than you realize, and it does not look dangerous at first. It looks polite, responsible, even normal. It is the habit of asking the world for permission before you allow yourself to live as you truly are. Permission to speak, permission to act, permission to choose your path, permission to be seen in a certain way. And because this habit is so deeply ingrained, most people never question it. They move through life adjusting themselves based on what they think will be accepted, approved, or understood. But there is a hidden cost to this way of living. The more you seek permission from others, the further you move away from yourself. You begin to shape your identity around external expectations. You silence parts of yourself that may not be approved. You delay decisions because you are waiting for reassurance. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose the ability to trust your own inner voice. Buddhism teaches awareness of the self, not the self that is defined by others, but the deeper awareness that exists beyond opinions, labels, and expectations. This awareness is where your true authority comes from. It is not loud, it does not demand attention, but it is steady and clear when you learn to listen to it. The problem is, most people are so used to looking outside that they rarely look within. They check how others feel before they check how they feel. They ask for advice before they ask themselves what they truly want. They wait for validation before they take action, and because of this, they live a life that feels guided, but not by their own direction. Inner authority begins the moment you stop asking for permission to be yourself, not in a rebellious or careless way, but in a conscious and grounded way. It is the understanding that your life is your responsibility, and the direction it takes depends on the choices you make, not on the approval you receive. Think about how often you hesitate before making a decision, not because you do not know what to do, but because you are unsure how it will be perceived. You think about what others will say, how they will react, and whether they will agree with you. And in that hesitation, you delay action. Now imagine what would happen if you trusted yourself enough to decide without needing that external confirmation. You would move faster, you would act with more clarity, and most importantly, you would begin to build a relationship with yourself that is based on trust instead of doubt. Buddhism encourages mindfulness, the practice of observing your thoughts and actions with awareness. When you apply this to your decision-making, you begin to notice how often your choices are influenced by others. You begin to see the patterns of seeking approval, avoiding judgment, and adjusting your behavior. And once you see these patterns, you have the opportunity to change them. One of the first steps in developing inner authority is learning to sit with your own thoughts without immediately seeking input. This can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to external validation. Your mind may create doubt, questioning whether your decision is right, whether you are missing something, whether you should ask someone else. But this discomfort is part of the process. It is the space where you begin to build trust in yourself. Each time you make a decision based on your own understanding, you strengthen that trust. And over time, this becomes more natural. Another important aspect is accepting that not everyone will agree with your choices. When you live with inner authority, you are not trying to please everyone. You are aligning your actions with what feels right to you. And because of this, there will be times when others do not understand or support your decisions. This is where many people go back to seeking permission. They feel the discomfort of disagreement and try to adjust themselves to regain approval. But if you continue to do this, you remain dependent on external validation. Letting go of this need requires you to accept that disagreement is part of life. Not everyone will see things the way you do, and that is okay. Your goal is not to be understood by everyone, but to live in alignment with yourself. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, and this includes non-attachment to opinions. When you are attached to how others see you, their opinions have power over your actions. But when you release this attachment, you begin to act more freely. This does not mean you ignore feedback or refuse to learn from others. It means you listen, but you do not depend. You consider perspectives, but you do not lose your own. Another key part of inner authority is being honest with yourself. This means acknowledging what you truly want, what you truly feel, and what truly matters to you. It means not hiding behind excuses or external expectations. Honesty can be challenging because it often reveals things you may have been avoiding. It may show you that you are in a situation that is not right for you, that you are following a path that does not align with you, or that you are holding on to something that is no longer serving you. But without this honesty, you cannot make meaningful changes. Once you are honest, you can begin to take action, not based on what is expected, but based on what is aligned with your truth. And this is where your life begins to shift. Inner authority also changes the way you handle uncertainty. When you rely on external validation, uncertainty feels overwhelming because you are constantly looking for reassurance. But when you trust yourself, uncertainty becomes manageable. You understand that you may not have all the answers, but you trust your ability to navigate whatever comes. This creates a sense of confidence that is not dependent on having everything figured out. Buddhism emphasizes acceptance of the present moment, including uncertainty. Life is not always clear or predictable, but when you accept this, instead of resisting it, you are able to move forward without being paralyzed by doubt. Another important shift is how you use your energy. When you are constantly seeking permission, you spend a lot of energy thinking about others' opinions. You analyze, you compare, you adjust. And this takes away from your focus and clarity. When you develop inner authority, you redirect that energy inward. You focus on your actions, your growth, and your direction. This creates a more intentional life. You are not constantly reacting to external input, you are creating your own path. And this makes your life feel more meaningful. Inner authority also strengthens your boundaries. When you trust yourself, you are more likely to set limits on what you allow into your life. You are less influenced by pressure, less likely to say yes when you mean no, and more aware of what aligns with you. This does not mean you become rigid or closed off. It means you become clear, you know what works for you and what does not. And this clarity helps you navigate situations more effectively. Over time, these changes create a different kind of presence. You become more grounded, you speak with more confidence, you act with more intention, and this presence is not something you try to create. It is a natural result of trusting yourself. People may notice it, but more importantly, you feel it. You feel less dependent. You feel more stable. You feel more connected to yourself. And this is what makes inner authority so powerful. It is not about controlling everything. It is about being rooted within yourself. Because when you are rooted, external conditions have less impact on you. You are not easily shaken by opinions, situations, or uncertainty. You are able to move through life with a sense of direction that comes from within. So if you want to develop this, start with small steps. Make a decision without asking for validation. Express your thoughts honestly, even if they are not popular. Sit with uncertainty without rushing to seek reassurance. Each of these actions strengthens your inner authority. And over time, you will begin to notice something. You no longer feel the need to ask the world for permission. You no longer hesitate before being yourself. You no longer adjust your identity based on others' expectations. You simply live, guided by your own awareness. And that is a level of freedom that most people never reach. Not because it is out of their reach, but because they never stop asking for permission long enough to find it within themselves. 24. The life you stop escaping when you finally face yourself. There is a subtle habit that controls the lives of most people, and it is so common that it often goes unnoticed. It is not something dramatic or obvious. It does not look like failure from the outside. In fact, it can look like a busy, normal life. But underneath it all, there is a quiet pattern, a pattern of escape. Not escaping physically, but mentally and emotionally. Escaping from thoughts, from discomfort, from truth, and most importantly, from yourself. Most people are constantly running, not from life, but from what they feel when they slow down. The moment there is silence, the moment there is stillness, something begins to surface. Thoughts they have been avoiding, emotions they have not fully faced, questions they have not answered. And instead of sitting with these things, they reach for distraction. They fill their time with noise, with activity, with anything that keeps them from being alone with their own mind. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is not life itself, but the resistance to what is. And one of the biggest forms of resistance is the refusal to face yourself as you are. When you avoid yourself, you create a life that feels disconnected. You move through your days, but you are not fully present. You engage in activities, but they do not feel meaningful. You chase things, but they do not bring lasting satisfaction. The life you stop escaping is the life you finally begin to live. Facing yourself is not about judgment. It is not about labeling yourself as right or wrong. It is about awareness. It is about seeing clearly what is happening inside you without trying to change it immediately. It is about understanding your thoughts, your patterns, your habits, and your reactions. Think about how often you avoid certain feelings. Maybe it is discomfort, uncertainty, or even boredom. These feelings may not seem significant, but they are often signals. Signals that something needs your attention. But instead of listening, you distract yourself. You scroll, you watch, you talk, you do anything that keeps you from sitting with what is there. But what you avoid does not disappear. It stays beneath the surface, influencing your behavior, your decisions, and your state of mind. And over time, this creates a life that feels heavy, not because of what is happening outside, but because of what is unresolved inside. Facing yourself means allowing these things to come to the surface. It means sitting in silence without immediately reaching for distraction. It means observing your thoughts without getting lost in them. It means feeling your emotions without trying to suppress or escape them. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Your mind may become restless. You may feel the urge to move, to distract, to avoid. But this discomfort is part of the process. It is the space where awareness begins to grow. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, the practice of being fully present with what is, without judgment. When you apply this to yourself, you begin to see patterns you were not aware of before. You notice how your mind reacts, how your emotions rise and fall, and how your habits shape your daily experience. And in this awareness, something important happens. You begin to understand yourself. Not in a surface-level way, but in a deeper, more honest way. You see why you react the way you do. You see what triggers certain emotions. You see what you are holding on to and why. This understanding is powerful because it gives you the ability to change, not through force, but through awareness. When you see clearly, you no longer act unconsciously. You begin to make choices that align with what you truly want. Another important aspect of facing yourself is accepting your current reality. Many people live in denial about where they are in life. They avoid looking at their habits, their choices, and their patterns because it is uncomfortable to admit that something needs to change. But without this acceptance, change is not possible. Acceptance does not mean you settle or give up. It means you see things as they are without distortion. It means you acknowledge your current situation so you can move forward from a place of clarity. When you accept where you are, you stop wasting energy on resistance. You stop pretending things are different than they are, and you begin to take responsibility for your life. This responsibility is not a burden, it is a form of freedom, because when you take responsibility, you also gain control. Not over everything, but over your actions, your responses, and your direction. Facing yourself also changes the way you handle your thoughts. Instead of reacting to every thought, you begin to observe them. You notice which thoughts are helpful and which are not. You see how certain thoughts create unnecessary stress, and you learn to let them go. Buddhism teaches that thoughts are not permanent. they come and go. But when you attach to them, you give them more power. By observing without attachment, you allow them to pass without controlling you. This creates a quieter mind. Not completely silent, but less overwhelming, more clear, more stable. And in that clarity, you begin to experience life differently. You are no longer constantly distracted. You are no longer avoiding what is inside you. You are no longer reacting automatically. You are present. Another important shift is how you experience emotions. When you stop escaping, you allow yourself to feel fully. You do not suppress or ignore your emotions. You experience them without trying to push them away. This does not make emotions stronger. In fact, it allows them to pass more naturally. When you resist an emotion, you hold on to it. But when you allow it, it moves through you. This creates emotional balance. You are not overwhelmed by what you feel. You are not controlled by your reactions. You are able to move through emotions without getting stuck. Facing yourself also brings clarity to your relationships. You begin to see which connections are healthy and which are not. You notice how certain people affect your state of mind. And with this awareness, you begin to make different choices. You set boundaries where needed. You distance yourself from what drains you. You invest in what supports your growth. This creates a life that feels more aligned. Another important aspect is letting go of the need to constantly escape into the future. Many people live in a state of anticipation. They are always waiting for something, a better situation, a better version of themselves, a future where everything feels right. But while they are waiting, they are not living. Facing yourself brings you back to the present. It reminds you that life is happening now, not later. And when you are present, you begin to appreciate what is in front of you. This does not mean you stop planning or working toward goals. It means you do not lose the present while thinking about the future. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is where life exists, and the more you connect with this moment, the more meaningful your life becomes. Over time, facing yourself becomes less uncomfortable and more natural. You begin to appreciate the clarity it brings. You begin to see the value in understanding yourself, and you begin to feel more connected to your life. You are no longer escaping. You are engaging. You are experiencing, and this changes everything. Your decisions become clearer, your actions become more intentional, your life becomes more aligned, and most importantly, you feel a sense of peace that does not come from avoiding, but from understanding. So if you want to change your life, do not start by looking outside. Start by turning inward. Sit with yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. Observe your thoughts without reacting. Feel your emotions without escaping. Because the life you are looking for is not something you will find by running. It is something you will discover when you stop escaping and finally face yourself. And in that moment, when you are fully present with who you are, without distraction, without avoidance, something shifts. You are no longer searching for something outside. You are no longer trying to fill a space within. You are simply here, aware, present, alive. And that is where your real life begins. 25. The ultimate freedom. Nothing controls you anymore. There is a kind of freedom that most people talk about, but very few actually experience. It is not the freedom of having everything you want, not the freedom of escaping responsibility, and not the freedom of controlling every situation. It is something much deeper, much quieter, and far more powerful. It is the moment when nothing outside of you controls your inner state anymore. Most people believe they are free, but if you look closely, their emotions, their thoughts, and even their decisions are constantly being influenced by things around them. A single comment can change their mood. A situation not going their way can disturb their entire day. A person's opinion can make them question themselves. And because of this, they are not truly living freely. They are reacting, adjusting, and being pulled in different directions by everything they encounter. Buddhism teaches that true freedom does not come from changing the external world, but from understanding and mastering the internal one. Because no matter where you go or what you achieve, if your mind is not stable, your experience will always be influenced by what happens around you. Think about how often your peace is interrupted. It could be something small, a message that was not answered, a tone that felt off, a thought that suddenly appears. And before you even realize it, your mind is pulled into it. You begin to think, analyze, react, and carry that moment with you long after it has passed. This is not freedom. This is dependency. Dependency on circumstances, on people, on thoughts. And as long as this dependency exists, your inner state will never be stable. The ultimate freedom begins when you realize that you do not have to react to everything, that you do not have to follow every thought, that you do not have to be affected by every situation. It is the understanding that there is a space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space, you have a choice. Most people are not aware of this space. They react instantly. Something happens, and they respond automatically. Their behavior is driven by habit, by emotion, by conditioning. And because of this, they feel like life is controlling them. But when you become aware, you begin to notice this space. You begin to see that you can pause, you can observe, you can choose. This is where control begins, not control over everything, but control over yourself. Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, the practice of being fully aware in the present moment. When you are mindful, you are not acting on autopilot. You are observing what is happening inside and outside of you without immediately reacting. This awareness changes everything. You begin to notice when a thought is trying to pull you into overthinking. You begin to notice when an emotion is rising and influencing your reaction. You begin to notice when a situation is triggering you. And instead of being controlled by these things, you step back. You observe. You choose. This does not mean you become passive or disconnected. It means you become intentional. You are still living your life, but you are doing so with awareness. Another important aspect of this freedom is letting go of attachment. Attachment is what creates dependency. When you are attached to something, your peace depends on it. It could be a person, an outcome, or even an idea of how things should be. When that thing changes or does not go your way, you feel disturbed. But when you let go of attachment, you release that dependency. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without needing something to be a certain way. You engage without clinging. You experience without trying to control. Buddhism teaches non-attachment as a way to reduce suffering. When you are not attached, you are able to move through life with more ease. You are not constantly trying to hold on to things. You are not resisting change. You are allowing life to flow. And in that flow, you find a sense of calm. Another key part of this freedom is understanding your thoughts. Most people believe their thoughts are who they are. They identify with every thought that appears. If they think something negative, they feel negative. If they think something stressful, they feel stressed. But thoughts are not facts. They are just mental events that come and go. When you begin to see this, your relationship with your mind changes. You no longer take every thought seriously. You no longer follow every thought. You observe them. You let them pass. This creates a sense of distance between you and your thoughts. And in that distance, you find peace. Because you are no longer trapped inside your own mind. Emotions work in a similar way. Most people are controlled by their emotions. They react based on how they feel in the moment. If they feel angry, they react with anger. If they feel anxious, they act from that anxiety. But emotions are temporary. They rise and fall. And when you learn to observe them without immediately reacting, you gain control. You allow the emotion to be there, but you do not let it dictate your behavior. This creates emotional stability. You are not constantly shifting based on how you feel. You remain steady. Another important aspect of this freedom is letting go of the need for control. Many people believe that controlling everything will bring them peace. They try to control situations, people, and outcomes, but life is unpredictable. No matter how much you try, you cannot control everything, and the more you try, the more frustrated you become. True freedom comes from accepting this, from understanding what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your actions, you can control your responses, you can control your focus, but you cannot control everything else. When you accept this, you stop wasting energy on things that are out of your hands. You focus on what is within your control, and this creates a sense of balance. Another part of this freedom is protecting your energy. Your energy is limited, and where you direct it shapes your life. If you give your energy to every situation, every thought, every person, you will feel drained. But if you become selective, if you choose where to invest your energy, your life becomes more focused. You begin to engage with what matters. You let go of what does not. And this creates clarity. Buddhism teaches that the mind can be trained. Just like any skill, awareness can be developed. And the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. You become more aware of your patterns. You become more aware of your reactions. You become more aware of your attachments. And with this awareness, you begin to change, not through force, but through understanding. Over time, all of these changes come together. You become less reactive, less attached, more aware, more stable, and slowly you begin to experience a different kind of life. A life where your peace is not easily disturbed. A life where your mind is not constantly overwhelmed. A life where you are not controlled by everything around you. This is the ultimate freedom, not because life becomes perfect, but because you are no longer controlled by it. You move through life with awareness. You respond with intention. You remain grounded even when things are uncertain. And in that state, you realize something important. You do not need everything to be perfect to feel okay. You do not need everyone to understand you. You do not need to control every outcome. You are enough as you are, right now, in this moment. And that realization changes everything, because when nothing controls you anymore, you are free to live. Not based on fear, not based on attachment, but based on awareness. And that is the kind of freedom that cannot be taken away, no matter what happens around you, because it comes from within. 26. The final shift. When you no longer chase, control, or cling. There comes a point in your life where something inside you quietly changes, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a calm and steady way that feels deeper than anything you have experienced before. It is not something you force, and it is not something you suddenly decide overnight. It is something that grows through awareness, through repeated understanding, through seeing the same patterns again and again until you finally stop participating in them. And that shift is this. You no longer feel the need to chase, to control, or to cling. Most people spend their entire lives doing one or more of these things. They chase people, trying to be seen, trying to be valued, trying to be chosen. They chase outcomes, believing that once they get what they want, they will finally feel complete. They chase feelings, constantly trying to escape discomfort and hold on to pleasure. And in that chasing, they exhaust themselves. At the same time, they try to control everything. They try to control how others behave, how situations unfold, how their life moves forward. They create expectations in their mind and feel frustrated when reality does not match those expectations. They believe that control will bring them peace, but instead it creates tension. And underneath all of this, there is clinging. Clinging to the past, clinging to people, clinging to identities, clinging to ideas of how things should be. This clinging creates resistance to change, and that resistance becomes suffering. Buddhism teaches that these three patterns, chasing, controlling, and clinging, are at the root of most human suffering. Not because life is meant to be empty, but because these patterns pull you away from the present moment. They keep you focused on what is not here instead of what is. The final shift happens when you begin to see these patterns clearly. You notice when you are chasing someone's attention. You notice when you are trying to control a situation. You notice when you are holding on to something that is already changing. And in that noticing, something powerful happens. You pause. You do not react immediately. You observe. And in that space, you begin to choose differently. Letting go of chasing does not mean you stop pursuing your goals or stop caring about your life. It means you stop attaching your worth to the outcome. You stop believing that something outside of you will complete you. You take action, but you are not desperate for a specific result. This creates a sense of calm in your actions. You are no longer rushing, no longer forcing, no longer trying to prove something. You are simply moving forward with clarity. Letting go of control means accepting that not everything is in your hands. It means understanding that people will act according to their own nature and situations will unfold in ways you cannot always predict. Instead of fighting this, you work with it. You focus on what you can control, your actions, your mindset, your responses, and you allow everything else to be as it is. This does not make you passive. It makes you balanced. You are engaged with life, but not overwhelmed by it. Letting go of clinging means releasing your grip on what is already changing. It means accepting that nothing is permanent, not people, not situations, not even your own thoughts and emotions. This acceptance does not make you detached in a negative way. It makes you free. Free to experience life without trying to hold on to every moment. Free to move forward without being pulled back by the past. Free to adapt without resistance. One of the most noticeable changes when this shift happens is the way your mind feels. It becomes quieter. Not completely silent, but less crowded. Thoughts still come, but they do not stay as long. Emotions still arise, but they pass more easily. You are no longer constantly pulled into every mental pattern. You begin to experience a sense of space within your mind, and in that space you find peace. Another change is how you respond to people. You are no longer trying to be understood by everyone. You are no longer chasing approval. You are no longer reacting to every opinion. You interact, you communicate, but you do not lose yourself in the process. This creates healthier relationships, not because others have changed, but because your approach has changed. You are not dependent, you are not controlling, you are present. This shift also changes how you experience time. You are no longer constantly thinking about the past or worrying about the future. You are more present, more aware, more connected to what is happening right now. This does not mean you ignore the past or future. It means you do not live in them. You use them when needed, but you return to the present. And this makes your life feel more real, more grounded, more meaningful. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of the present moment because it is the only place where life actually exists. When you stop chasing, controlling, and clinging, you naturally return to this moment. And in that return, you begin to experience life more fully. Another important aspect of this shift is how you handle discomfort. Before, discomfort would trigger a reaction. You would try to escape it, fix it, or avoid it. But now, you allow it. You sit with it, you observe it, and you realize that discomfort is temporary. It does not need to control you. This creates resilience. You are able to face challenges without being overwhelmed. You are able to move through difficult moments without losing your balance. And over time, this builds a deeper sense of confidence. Not the kind that comes from external success, but the kind that comes from knowing you can handle what comes your way. The final shift also changes your sense of identity. You are no longer defined by your past. You are no longer attached to a fixed idea of who you are. You see yourself as something fluid, something that is constantly evolving. This allows you to grow without resistance, to change without fear, to adapt without losing yourself. You become more flexible, more open, and more aware. And this makes your life feel lighter, because you are not carrying a heavy sense of identity that you need to protect. You are simply being. This shift is not something that happens instantly. It develops over time, through awareness, through practice, through repeated understanding. There will still be moments where you catch yourself chasing, controlling, or clinging, but the difference is you notice, and in that noticing, you have a choice to continue the pattern or to let it go. Each time you choose to let go, you strengthen this new way of being, and slowly it becomes your natural state, a state of ease, a state of clarity, a state of freedom, where you are no longer pulled in different directions by every thought, every emotion, every situation, where you are steady, grounded, present. This is what most people are searching for without realizing it. Not more success, not more control, not more validation, but this sense of inner stability, this sense of peace that does not depend on external conditions. So if you want to move toward this shift, start with awareness. Notice when you are chasing. Notice when you are trying to control. Notice when you are clinging. And instead of reacting, pause. Observe. Let go again and again. Because the more you release these patterns, the more you return to yourself. And in that return, you find something that was always there. A calm that does not need to be created. A peace that does not need to be chased. A life that does not need to be controlled. You simply experience it as it is, and that is the final shift, where you are no longer trying to force life into something it is not, where you are no longer fighting what is, where you are no longer holding on to what is already changing. You are just here, aware, present, free, and in that freedom you finally understand what it means to truly live. At the end of everything, when all the noise fades, when the distractions lose their power, and when life slows down enough for you to see clearly, one truth remains. You were never here to carry everything, to overthink everything, or to spend your life chasing things that were never meant to stay. You were here to live, fully, consciously, and with awareness. But most people don't realize this until time has already passed. They spend their days reacting instead of choosing, holding on instead of letting go, thinking instead of living. They wait for the perfect moment to change, not understanding that the moment they are waiting for is already here. Through everything you've understood, one pattern becomes clear. The more you let go, the lighter your life becomes. The more you stop chasing, the calmer your mind becomes. The more you stop trying to control everything, the more peace you begin to feel. And the more you return to yourself, the less the world has power over you. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing everything that is not truly you. The overthinking, the attachment, the fear, the need for validation, all of it is noise. And beneath that noise, there is something simple, something steady, something real, you. A version of you that does not need to prove anything. A version of you that is not controlled by every situation. A version of you that can let go, move forward, and remain at peace. Buddhism teaches that suffering ends when attachment ends, and freedom begins when awareness grows. And now you understand what that really means. It is not about escaping life. It is about seeing it clearly. It is about understanding what matters and releasing what does not. So from this moment forward, live differently. Let go of people who drain your energy. Let go of problems you cannot control. Let go of thoughts that only create stress. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop delaying your peace. Stop living inside your mind. Because life is not happening later. It is happening now, every breath you take. Every moment you experience, every choice you make, this is your life. And one day, it will end. Not to create fear, but to create awareness. So don't waste it. Don't waste it on overthinking. Don't waste it on attachment. Don't waste it trying to hold on to things that are meant to change. Instead, live in a way where nothing feels wasted. Be present. Be aware. Be free. Because the moment you stop chasing, stop controlling, and finally let go, you realize something powerful. You were never missing anything. You were just holding on to too much.